We are live. Soon, I'm not going to be able to start this early on every stream, right? I'm going to be busy, but the way my schedule is going, I decided to add something completely new. Before we get to that, welcome to the Condor DM show. Now, here is the new thing. I have relaunched my backup channel as a movie review channel. I know. I got a copy of A Clockwork Orange. I already watched it before. I made some notes, but I'm going to watch it again tonight. Fresh new notes. And tomorrow will be a new stream, and I want you to sub to the backup channel. Go to my community post, and there you can find a link to a stream that takes you to another channel I have. Sub to that channel, and on every Friday, same time, 8 p.m., you can, hey, Drift Speed, you can check out my new movie review stream. Now, the movies I'm mainly covering, it's from 1970 until 1999, but I'll also cover some new movies, right? I'll mix them in there just a bit, right? But I'll be continuously covering movies starting with the 70s, moving through the 80s, and then moving through the 90s. The first movie is going to be tomorrow night that I'm covering, A Clockwork Orange. And yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's a 70s movie, very interesting. And I want to pick movies that align with my nerdiness, right? I don't want to watch certain movies or go to a certain thing. So if you follow me for my tabletop role-playing game stuff because I'm a fellow nerd, you're probably going to like what I cover. I'm purposely going to cover movies, entertainment that are in that form. Now, once I know my life schedule going forward very soon, I might even add another stream onto that channel. We'll see. We'll see. And that's possibly for Monday nights, because I don't mind working just about every night on YouTube. And that would be for mainly TV shows. But for now, I'm going to focus on movies. It's my cat eating over. A Clockwork Orange. Tonight, I'm covering Dark Sun, the old school Dungeons and Dragons setting. I call this show my mind fug from deep within. Thursday's Dark Sun, right as you started. There you go. Dark Sun is going to be good. Hot Sun, Desert, Authoritarian, Psionics. I'm going to cover all that. Conan, sort of related to sword and sorcery stuff, the fluff, how to run with Dark Sun. Yeah, I'm going to give you some advice to how to use the setting if you're running it. But on top of that, I'm going to cover Psionics for 2nd edition AD&D, or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. That's a little extra I'm throwing in there. I thought about how I would run the settings going forward, because when I run games, I give like advice for how to run it, how to make characters. Well, for the settings, I'm going to give dungeon mastering advice for the settings, unless it's like a setting where we could just use a generic term like game master, right? A non-D&D setting, and there are some out there, and I'll probably cover them, right? But tonight it's Dark Sun, right? We'll see in the future how that all works out. Interesting life. So I sort of found out that Friday nights I can also have the time to do a stream. I was like, okay, that's good. What would I want to do? And I wanted to launch another channel. So I launched a new channel, which is an old backup channel. I'm just taking it and revamping it into a movie review channel. I'm a nerd. There's a lot of nerd movies that are old school. I'm a bit old school. I figured I'd cover a lot of sci-fi, fantasy, but like bizarre movies too. Something I think my fellow nerds would be into. But tonight we are covering Dark Sun here. It's a big focus. I've talked about Dark Sun in the past, and I've even covered AD&D Psionics. I'm covering Psionics because Psionics is so attached to Dark Sun that it's something you don't want to separate. It's something that is considered to be frequently used by the NPCs, the world. I mean, if you're going to run Dark Sun without Psionics, don't run Dark Sun. That would be my advice, right? I mean, it is Dark Sun is almost a setting made to introduce you in a way to psionics, to put them at the forefront. Psionics is a way for players to have abilities that can counter some of the natural magic that you run into in the world. That was sort of the idea. Plus, there's monsters with it, but the idea with psionics is here's an ability where you can counter, the magic that you commonly find in D&D. It's really interesting, actually. Psionics, even though a lot of people find it weird and avoid it, the old school psionics, it's actually not bad. I used it quite often. I use psionics in the game quite often. You got to get used to it. Like if you're not ready for psionics, it's like Rollmaster. It's like psionics can be something you feel like you're pulling out of your ass if you're not prepared. So it's something, if you want to use psionics in a more successful way, preparation. It's like Thaco or anything. Like when you go to play your character or you run the game, it's like Rollmaster is a great teacher for this if you want to get it right. Like it's like you go to play an AD&D game or like second edition, and you're like, what's all my different Thacos? Well, dude, make up a little extra piece of paper, put all your notes down, your numbers, so you can instantly access them during gameplay, so they're all instantly applied, right? And as long as you have that stuff ready, notes, stuff like that, and your numbers, you instantly apply them. You don't got to keep looking at your character sheet, going like this up and down. It's any part of the game is like that. Psionics can be the same way. Make sure you have your notes ready. Make sure you have everything ready. And then when you use it, it's actually cool. It's actually fun to use. But you got to get comfortable with speeding it up, because if not, it feels weird. It feels out of place for a Dungeons and Dragons game. It's because here's the thing with D&D. D&D comes with an expectation of play. And it was built up for years before you finally hit psionics. And psionics is an alternative. It feels like it's meant for another game. That's what some people would tell me. It's not they hate it completely. They just felt like this could be for another game. I get it. It's foreign to people that got used to D&D in a certain way. And if you just put it away, D&D works like D&D is going to work, right? You don't feel like you've lost much by not using psionics. Though I would say if you're going into the Underdark, there's some interesting monsters, some interesting things that if you take psionics away, I guess you can replace it with magic. But I find that to be a little lame. I like psionics myself. I don't mind them. And I always thought to myself, getting used to an alternative system, first it can feel weird, but the more you adjust to it, the more you're willing to adjust to other things. There's a lot of weirdness out there. There's a lot of reasons a lot of people that play D&D didn't cross over to other games, because they feel a little out of place every time you're crossing over. You get used to it. It's good. Dark Sun is about city-states, authoritarian control. The world is your enemy. The city, you would think, oh, there's all these enemies. I'm like, the setting is your enemy if you're playing a character. Dark Sun, the setting, is your enemy. That's sort of the way you want to look at it. It's not Conan. When I say it's related to Conan and sword and sorcery, it has an element of sword and sorcery. It definitely has stuff that you would relate to Conan, but don't get it wrong, it's not Conan. But Dark Sun definitely leans in that direction, has similarities. The authoritarian state rulership is interesting. That can be challenging. Resources, like if you're an old nerd that likes to track your resources, well, Dark Sun will eat up your resources like crazy, right? You'll be tracking a lot of resources. How can I say? Is it a game where you could, with Dark Sun, run a campaign that's like 100 or 200 sessions long? Well, I would say no. But the reason I would say it's not made for like 200, like a long, like, Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk type of long extended campaign, it's just, there's more to go for. In a certain way, there's things where the comfort to go for more in Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms is there. Dark Sun is more like, you could possibly pull off 100 sessions, not 200, not like I can't see a Dark Sun being like a campaign that lasts you years and years, right? But can you get, at the very least, on minimal, 50 sessions out of Dark Sun? And it'd be interesting. Yes. Could you do it more than once with a variety of different experiences? Oh, yeah. But it really comes down to the DM at that point. You can only take so many. Your approach as a player with Dark Sun is going to be what it is, no matter what. So it's really, what am I going to throw at you? What kind of people? What kind of city state are you going to end up in? And it depends on what I want to aim at. So really, it's giving the DM the power to create a different, unique experience each time for you. Giving you freedom in Dark Sun can be very challenging, but it can be done. But even if I do, it's very limiting. But it's not like a railroad. It's not at all. You won't feel railroaded. I won't force you into an adventure. But say I sandbox Dark Sun. I say, okay, here, do what you want. I have all these ideas. Man, you're going to feel limited. It's going to be resource draining. You're going to need the pressure to get money, get ahead, get something to maintain yourself is going to lock you down. Like if I put too many hooks out there, good chance you're not touching even 90% of them, right? It's going to be very limited. You're going to go for things for the sake of survival. And Dark Sun is all about survival. But it can be interesting. It's a Mad Max type of situation. Really, where Dark Sun shines is not in the overall setting itself. It's the people and the pure experience on the spot. And that's really on the DM to make that interesting for you. The people, the circumstances, your social interaction in that unique environment becomes the prize. So if you're looking down at Dark Sun, like it's some game, like what do I do with my character? Like an overview, looking down at your character and going, it's not like that. Dark Sun is more appealing when you play it in that more, I like, you just enjoy in the moment social interaction, the role play and everything in this sort of medieval Mad Max magical world, right? Like a Conan Mad Max. It's pretty crazy. It's not Mad Max in the idea of technology, but in the personalities you could possibly meet, the crazy people, right? How is the authoritarian state? How are people in that? Who's looking to be free? Who's not? So when it comes right down to it, Dark Sun's one where the idea of you building up and having something bigger later, like a castle and all that, I'd say no, not really. That's not going to be your aim. It's survival and your interaction through that source. And you can achieve something, but you're going to feel limited. You're not going to feel like you can just build up a castle, become a ruler. It's not going to be like that simple. It's more like freeing people, overcoming a very extreme challenge. And that's going to be very hard for you. But really the prize is how the setting makes people. It makes crazy people. Well, that's it. Dune is, it's more like the you can see a story going on. It's more like what the DM is going to put in front of you. But really, Dark Sun is one of these things where it's how interesting can the DM make it for you in a certain way. It's presentation of NPCs becomes important, personalities, and how you go about just interacting with that. It's pretty straightforward. In a way, it's already a sandbox. To give you a specific adventure too much in Dark Sun, especially leading up, it's almost useless. You almost want a sandbox in Dark Sun, but it's still only going to be so much. Like, you just don't need to worry. In a way, think about just going through Dark Sun as a constant adventure. The second I say start, that's the adventure you're in. Right? In a way, you're already in. You're sitting somewhere, you're already in. It's not like sitting at a town in Greyhawk. Right? It's completely different. It will feel different. In a way, you're already in mode of what do I do next? How do I survive? So, in a way, when you start Dark Sun, stuff's just going to go down, and you got to just decide how you're going to react to it. Now, that's complete freedom. Like, to put you on a railroad in that game becomes useless. I just got to have things happening. right? I got to have things happening. And there's places where I got to have a lot of, there's a limit. There's not like all kinds of different monsters. So there's a limitation on the encounters you can make. So you can make a bunch of pre-made potential encounters, pre-made potential NPCs, and just do a lot of pre-making, right? And then just let people get in and choose how they want to interact with that. You don't got to do nothing. You don't got to trick anybody down the path. Nothing. Just be ready. I know it sounds pretty random. When I get to how to run it, I have some details written down, how it all works. That will be very helpful. But there you go. I don't want to say much about Dark Sun until I get to the coverage. We still got an hour or so to go. Now, it's probably one of the last, I don't know if I can keep starting early in the streams going forward, because I told you guys I can only do that for a while, starting early so I can interact with you guys and have fun. I hope that you checked out my community post and seen that I've revamped my backup channel to a movie review channel. The majority of movies I'll be reviewing starts from the 70s until the end of the 90s, old school. Though, because I want to be a nerd, and I'm not just covering, I'm not covering Patton. I'm not covering MASH. I'm covering bizarre and nerd movies on my new backup channel. It's going to be every Friday, same time as all my other streams here. It's going to be movie reviews. It's going to be fantasy, sci-fi, and bizarre. And at times, I will check out the new movies and review a new movie. So not just the old movies, but the main aim, if I'm not checking out something new, I have a list of movies ready to go from the 70s right up into the end of the 90s. And the first stream for that movie review stream will be tomorrow night. And I'll be doing a review on A Clockwork Orange. Bizarre movie. I'm not so much covering that for fantasy or sci-fi, but I'm a nerd. I want to cover movies that are nerd, that are in the vein of sci-fi and fantasy. I want to cover those. If my schedule going forward is what I think it's going to be, I might be adding another stream on that channel to cover TV shows, right? Potentially. We'll see on Monday nights, right? Potentially TV shows. And I might be doing that like every second Monday. So I won't be able to do it every Monday, but maybe 2 Mondays a month. I can bang it out. I have a schedule that's going to keep me busy for the daytime, but at night I'm free to get on YouTube and do these. Right? That's why I started these the way I have, because I know my schedule going forward. And so I'm doing Dark Sun tonight. This channel remains tabletop role-playing game focused, but the other channel is going to be movies and possibly TV shows for Monday nights. But we'll see. Mainly movies right now every Friday. It's every Friday. Clockwork Orange is a beginner. And then here's going to be a funny one. But I don't know. I hope you guys are interested. Very much like Dune. Yeah, I've seen the Dune thing. I might cover Dune. But this is going to be an interesting movie I'm going to cover. And I'm going to cover something, like, not just when I cover the movies. It's not going to just be about review of the movies, but some of the interesting details. Like, for example, next Friday, I'm going to cover Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Now, that might sound very simple, but there is a modern day movie made. And there's a whole conspiracy behind Willy Wonka in this movie. And I want to go into the details over the conspiracy. Talk about that, like how that movie is, even though it doesn't directly tell you it's a like part 2 or a continuation of Willy Wonka, the conspiracy out there is it is. And it's quite a popular conspiracy. There's a couple of YouTubers that in the past have done big videos on this this little conspiracy between these two movies. And I want to cover that. So I thought that would be an interesting way of looking, do a basic review of what Willy Wonka is, but then go into this whole conspiracy behind it, which I thought would be interesting just to talk about that stuff, right? So this week it's A Clockwork Orange and then Willy Wonka. But I mean, I got some other movies lined up, like ideas, right? Like The Exorcist. We'll see. The Exorcist is for sure. Chainsaw Massacre is one I'm going to do. Uh, maybe Chinatown, right? Even Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So I want to find interesting ways of looking. I've been looking at these movies and just finding sort of interesting things to talk about them. So that I hope that's going to be fun. I hope it's going to be fun. And then going into TV shows, I'm probably going to do mostly like cartoons and that, like every second Friday. Cartoons, other things like that that are nerd stuff. Not just cartoons, but I mean like Precinct 13, which I like, but old TV shows like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Ghostbusters, Robotech, stuff like that, right? Stuff we nerds would definitely like. So I'm into that, right? But there you go. That's what I'm doing on every Friday on the now revamped backup channel, which has become a movie review channel. I'll patiently build that up. You can go sub there if you want to be part of that, and talk to me about movies on that stream. I do enough, I feel, tabletop role playing game streaming, and yeah, I'm still going to be producing videos, but I'll admit to you right now that I'm going to be very careful and post content like movies a little bit more, not movies, videos spread out more. So I probably won't be posting videos every day if you noticed. It doesn't mean I stopped. It's going to be now every so many days. I'm probably going to make a video and post it for tabletop role playing games. Just be very careful. Make sure I'm inspired and not just throw everything out at once, right? I do enough streaming that between the streams and the videos, I'm quite happy with the outcome. And then I'll be adding this new streaming for entertainment. So I thought that'd be interesting. And it's not just old movies. I want to, on the new one, I do want to cover some new movies. I'm probably going to check out He-Man. Actually, I know I am. But the movie I would like after Willy Wonka. So after Willy Wonka, here's the movie I'm going to do a review on. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be real with you guys because I got a copy of it now. The new Backrooms movie. So, I've been thinking of doing I mentioned some other possible movies, but really it's just, I'm going to see if I like Backrooms. If I like the new Backrooms movie, I'm going to do this, Willy Wonka, and then Backrooms. And I want Backrooms to sort of sink in a bit. I don't want to just jump right on the early bandwagon for that stuff. Though I might do something like that with He-Man. I am going to check out some of the new Dune stuff, right? On the TV show one, if it works out, my schedule is worked out. Of course, I want to check out like Star Trek, stuff like that. Like just exciting stuff. Well, make sure that wasn't someone knocking. Sorry. But Dark Sun. So this is the first old school Dungeons and Dragons stream tonight. Pretty interesting, hey? I know I do a variety of other tabletop role-playing game coverage. And I used to think, okay, I can do this coverage. I've already covered the old D&D games, but at least I'm doing the D&D videos because I like doing that content, and that would keep certain people around. But I'm like, you know what? It'd just be interesting to go back to doing the settings and stuff I started doing for D&D. And so I said, you want to know, I want to stream about D&D. I don't want to just do other games. I want to do D&D. And it's not just because I'm looking to draw D&D people. It's just like personally, I like talking about that subject, right? So, yes, Dungeons and Dragons. And there's so much. There is so much to cover. The historical stuff I'm going to cover with Rome and all that. The settings, everything else. There's so much more to cover with D&D. So much to that I'm like, there's enough to go back to streaming with that. I looked at the potential content for that for a while. And if I feel like I run out of D&D content at one point, which I will, but I get a backup plan for that whole thing. So I feel secure in running D&D and going forward. Because at one point, I do want to start a little bit of coverage on like doing third edition. Not playing it, but just doing some coverage on that. Even some of the stuff they're doing for that. So I'm probably going to add that in to the Dungeons and Dragons stream coverage. So that's going to be good. Now, I don't like the idea of just doing like let's do a monster every week or every second video. To me, everything I do has to have some meat to the bone. And I don't want to stretch out something and add meat where it's not. So I'm like, I thought many times, like in the past, I've seen people do this. Do a stream on every dragon. Or a video like on every dragon, but I'm like, there's only so much to say. In reality, most of the videos I see out there, you could cut half the time off them, if not more, and say everything you need to say about a dragon or that dragon. And so I like to make sure when I bring you guys content, it's as much meat on the bone as I can give you that I think is worth it. Right? Like the fluff is good. This gives you a history. Lets you get to know people. The relation here of the setting tonight, talking about Conan, Sword of Sorcery, it's related enough that it's worth talking about. And then teaching you about psionics and how to run with the setting is going to be really good. You're going to appreciate it, I promise. At one point, I'm going to be doing some other books. So I want to do a stream that's going to focus on Dungeoneer's Survival Guide, the Wilderness Survival Guide, and Manual of the Plains. I'm also going to be doing AD&D 1E and 2E monsters, like a sort of that with Fiend Folio. I do want to do a stream on Tomb of Horrors and even Unearthed Arcana. So I got a lot of plans, at least for the near future, for Dungeons and Dragons, which is going to be good. Psionics. Yeah, I'm going to teach it to you. This is going to, if you always hear about psionics, it's one thing to hear about them. I'm going to tell you how it actually works, like the details, like for real. Like this time you'll go from hearing why they're difficult to or hearing people say they're difficult, or not many people use them, or they're interesting to. Dude, I'm going to cover the details tonight. You're going to know psionics by the end of the stream. Now, I've covered it before really well, but the stream is so old, a lot of new people have not seen that old stream. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm redoing it. I've covered Dark Sun before in a previous YouTube channel. I've done some videos on this stuff. So Dark Sun is something I've actually ran. A lot of people out there will say, I don't think anybody actually ran Dark Sun. I'm like, I did. That's why I know the psionics really well. I actually ran with Dark Sun. I ran 3 campaigns with Dark Sun. Campaigns that each went over 50 sessions. Right? So I feel like I know enough about Dark Sun. I can definitely tear into it and tell you about it. Like I ran three campaigns in total. Yeah, I did Spelljammer. That's another one. Yep, you're exactly right. Covered Spelljammer. There's already a stream up on that. Yep. Spelljammer is covered. Again, this is why I know psionics. I also use psionics and just like I did a Forgotten Realms campaign where, of course, part of it was going down to meet the drow, encounter the drow. And before I ever did Dark Sun, I wanted to learn psionics because I actually wanted like the psionic using monsters to be able to actually use it, like for real. So I was like, I'm going to do this because a lot of people avoided it, but I'm like, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it until I get used to it. I don't care how awkward it feels at first. I'm going to make the notes and I'm going to just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. And after a bit, I ended up liking it. But it did take me a bit to, it was weird at first. I understand why people drop it. I went through the phase of considering not using it. And I said, you know what? It's not that bad. And then when I got really used to it, it was good. And then I was really happy because when I went to do Spelljammer and Dark Sun, I was like, man, I know how to do this stuff. This is like actually easy to apply for me, which made that whole experience a lot better. And so I've taught psionics to a bunch of people. Like I said, I've streamed about it. I streamed about Spelljammer. I know Sonics really well. And I hear so many people have vague conversations about Sonics. So I'm like, well, let's go beyond vague. Let's go beyond vague. Let's dig in. But I'm here for a bit yapping. Let's see. I've done all my pitching for now. Pitch my new movie stream. Pretty happy about that. Just because I actually like talking about movies, right? You might not know that. Privately, I like talking about movies. And I wanted an excuse to start watching movies again. I've been so busy with life and notes and everything that it's not that I don't have the time to watch a movie, but I would go do some other things. So it's like, you know what? I want some pressure. I need pressure because I need pressure to want to go watch a movie because I want to watch movies. But I'm like, I need some pressure. I need to get away from these other things. Like I don't mind TV shows, but I'm not really happy with them. So I said, you know what? Screw it. I'll do a movie stream. And I know because once I put pressure on myself, I'll watch and I'll join the movies. Like I got a Clockwork Orange I'm going to watch tonight. Bizarre movie. Great bizarre movie. It's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. And TV shows, I'm only going to do reviews. Like I want to do it every second Monday if I'm going to do them because it's more like maybe watch a few episodes, go over some clips and remind myself like Star Trek and stuff like that and what I know. I don't have to watch entire seasons, and nor would I want to invest that much time. I don't get that much time to invest. So I can sort of do, sort of cool freehand talk on those, or sort of like an off-script show. But movies, I don't get to watch an entire season to watch a movie. So meaning I could take a new movie like the new Dune or the new He-Man or the Backrooms, which again is probably going to be my third stream, is going to be the new Backrooms. I want to watch it first to make sure, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to do that one. Backrooms, the new one. Because I like Backrooms. I watched a couple of different of these backroom gimmicks. And I just heard these people just sort of take the idea and they finally they make it mint. It's like, imagine you've messed around with this whole concept a few times and you keep getting better, and think of this movie like a sort of peak evolution of those movies, those backroom movies. So imagine you just kept doing the same thing until you got really, 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 really good at it. And then you had an opportunity where you could actually get some really quality actors to come in, some really quality people that really know a lot more come in and hit it out of the park doing this bizarre backroom story. And I think that's what they did here. I think that's why it's getting so much praise from everyone. And there's so few movies out nowadays that get so much praise from every side of the fence, if you get what I'm saying. Right? That when one comes out, man, I'm always going, oh, shit, maybe. And this one's bizarre. It's right up the line of the type of movies I want to cover. So I'm not covering the movies on this channel. The stream is on my new movie review channel. You can find a link to the stream, which will lead you to the channel, in the community section of this channel. So if you go to the community post that I do here, you can take the link over, sub to that channel, and we can talk movies. So again, I won't keep pushing, but it's just like I'm excited about that stuff. So it's like, Like I even watched some clips and just made notes based on what I remember for the Clockwork Orange. But man, that's a twisted movie. Twisted. Good and twisted. So I hear some people trying some new stuff. Heard a Barracks GM guy, another YouTuber, is doing this heroic 5e gimmick. Wish him luck on it. I think he's trying to take some of his heroes' ideas and use 5e on it. From what I've been told, he didn't like classes in the past, like classes and that, and thought that wouldn't really work with a hero game. But here he is doing an experiment with 5e, and he's saying he thinks I think at this point he's established in his own mind that he's proved himself wrong, that classes can work with a hero game. Okay. I mean, yeah, totally. I don't see why not. Um, like to me, I think that new Hero Academia was something that should have inspired everybody, and it definitely gives you a different take on heroes. I think the whole anime Hero Academia is much more. I don't know if that's his aim with this game. I think he's still looking at comic books. But I know he knows about the Hero Academia because I know he's a hero guy. So I've heard people say that he talks about that. I don't know. I think I would lean a bit into that. The other thing is I would tell him is I wonder if he's watched One Punch Man. And not the later seasons because some of the stuff is garbage. But that first season, man, it gives you a very interesting view of heroes. Right? I wouldn't say make One Punch Man, but it's quite an interest. Like outside of One Punch Man, the characters, some of them are unique and funny. I like Hero Academia. I like almost these two approaches to me. They're a bit more unique away from typical comics, but definitely inspired by comics. But they're ideas that are not exactly comic books. And when you look at Hero Academia is a leveling class-based system right there. I'm like, and it's new. And he says, I'd like to hit with the 5e people. I'm like, well, let's see. Are you doing a 5e game based on comic books from the 70s and 80s? Yeah. Why not do a 5e game? Because the Hero Academy show is definitely something he would like. And I know he would. So I'm like, why not lean more into that, man? That already has a system of starting from nothing, slowly going up. And you don't get to copy it exactly, but something more in that vein would be way more appealing. And it's a lot more street level stuff, right? Heroes Unlimited sometimes can be misunderstood or underestimated because people are expecting the exact comic book approach. The reason I like Heroes Unlimited is it's street level and it feels more gamey for that reason for me. Like if you're trying to copy comic books, maybe Heroes Unlimited is not your gimmick. But I never went at a Heroes game with the idea that I copy comic books. I know DC Heroes would worry about that, but they were like, be episodic. I'm like, well, I'm a game master. So my idea is game first always anyway, right? I think game the second I start running anything. And I said, as a game, I prefer Heroes Unlimited. And I like a street level, more held down type of set of what we might want to call heroes. And when I look at Hero Academia, I said this the other night, but I really think Heroes Unlimited definitely already leans more into that more street level hero gimmick where heroes are a lot weaker. You're not playing Superman in that vein, right? There's a lot more sort of like a Punisher, you know what I mean, type of Daredevil type of look. But I'm like, I didn't get into the comic books the way other people did to a lot of hero comic books. So when I seen hero games, I had a vague idea, but I was like, game. So when guys are telling me, and I've heard not just Bear X GM complain about certain games like Heroes Unlimited, but I've heard other guys go, well, that doesn't really do the comic books justice. I mean, like, you can't. Now, I finally hear some guys it took them decades to figure that part out. You can't really do the comic books right. It's a game. It's a game, and you got to play it like a game. You can't just copy everything over. There's a game element to what we do in every game, no matter what IP source you're going after. The game element has to become so important to what you're doing. Like even the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, there's elements to that you know, I don't know if I'm going to copy what you're reading in a comic book or in a TV show, nor am I worried. I like just that I have the theme. I can take the theme and that can feel cool, but it's still going to be a game. And there's many gaming aspects I'm worried about. And I will adjust away from a cartoon or a comic book a bit if it appeals more to a gamey experience. And here's what you find out: the players will enjoy the game. So it'd be like, well, it's not copying a comic book, but is it good as a game? Are you enjoying the game? Yeah. Problem. It really solves the problem. It's don't be so nerdy that you get caught up on certain things. A lot of guys would in the past. I remember that. A lot of guys would get caught up in certain things. They kill games too. The experience of some games. They like the tedious side of D&D. Some of it okay, right? Some of it can be overkill. I'm like, dude, all right. I meet a war gamer and I have to talk him down for a minute, dude. I get it. I get it. War gamers, you guys can be as tedious as can be. Yeah, all right. Okay. Here's the problem. Very few of you crossed over to the hobby, and you're going to sit down at a table with 8 other people, right? Yeah. The 8 other people are a mix of theater nerds and people that don't give a fuck about wargaming or the tediousness with it. Oh. So what I'm trying to say to you, dude, is if you do that, you enjoy it, but you might as well play a solo game because now you're making a game for you're playing a game for you, not for them. So it doesn't mean you have to get rid of all the tedious, but you got to find your balance. And I always look at games like finding a balance. I like the IP. I like getting as close as you can. It's like, okay, cool, we're playing the heroes. But there's other aspects where it's going to be important as a game. It's just I knew a lot of guys that it took them years to figure that part out. They get to details. I'm like, bend to the game, dude. But that's not realistic. It's a game. Once you get guys to cue in that not everything has to match the real world, it doesn't matter, then you're good. Games improve right away. Because what you're saying to the person is, okay, that's not realistic, but when you're playing a game, does that feel good? Yes. Does trying to be realistic not feel as good? Yeah. Well, then, so the realism is harming the experience of the game, right? Yeah. Well, then we get rid of the realism at that part. Or we claw back on it, if you get what I'm saying. We roll back away from this thing to make sure the gaming experience is good. And I tell guys that we get picky about this. The people playing these games, they can bitch, they can complain, but when they finally play, they'll actually enjoy that you've rolled back. It's really important. Roll back and enjoy. Hey, Monkey. Oh, to Dark Sun. Oh, man, I got all the details, Monkey. You know me. I'm going to have how to run it. I'm going to go through 2nd edition psionics, teach you psionics, because you really need to know psionics to understand Dark Sun and run it, right? It'd be pointless to give you some advice and not teach you psionics. And psionics is so tied to Dark Sun that I think I'd be personally killing it overall, right? So Tot Sun, Desert, Authoritarian Rulers. There's Thrykin monsters. Psionics. It's going to be good. In a way, it's a lot easier to prep as a game master or as a DM because unlike normal D&D settings, there's a limit on the amount of monsters there are. So you don't got it's not like in 2nd edition, you got a book this thick. Which monster? Holy fuck, dude. Where in this game, it's more like, all right, which of these so many monsters do you want to choose from? So it's a lot easier to not have to put people on a railroad and just make random encounters and put some hooks in. It's a lot easier to sandbox too because there's only, players are only going to go after so much. And it's more about survival. It's like I was saying earlier, as a player, it's harder for you to look at the overview and try to figure out what you're doing, like you're in a Greyhawk game or a Forgotten Realms game. It's more about going to be that pure in-game experience that you're looking for. The Mad Max type of characters, right? What is the society going to be like? And actually experiencing the setting, like feeling the setting, is really important to Dark Sun for you to keep playing. Because if you go in and go, man, I'm going to build to level 9, start my fort, get my army. No. And you got to look at the world as something where you're already in the adventure when you start because The setting is your enemy. Now, if you like Conan and Sword and Sorcery, this definitely has leanings towards that. I say Mad Max, technology difference, but personality and crazy characters can be something in the vein of what you think Mad Max, but it's like Conan, Sword and Sorcery feel. Now, it's not Conan, don't misunderstand. I'm not claiming Dark Sun to be Conan. It just has a lot of relating factors, right? A lot of relating factors. And I don't know, Monkey, if you got a chance to check out my community posts, you can see that I've revamped my old backup channel into a movie review channel. I'll be doing that every Friday. The first one's going to be A Clockwork Orange. Next one, I plan on doing Willy Wonka Factory, but it's going to be with a conspiracy theory related to a new movie. And then, if I really like it, because I am going to watch it, I'm going to cover on the stream after that the new 2026 Backrooms movie. Because now movies I'm going to be covering aren't just like military movies. Like I don't want to do Patton or MASH. Nothing against them, but I'm a nerd, and I want to do reviews that definitely appeal to some of this audience here. So I want to go bizarre, sci-fi, and fantasy mostly. And if my schedule, like if I find out my schedule going forward is going to be good for every 8 o'clock at night, it opens almost every day up to me. So I might actually consider, if my schedule is good after, I'll find that out in a week, might be doing every second Monday as a sort of semi-off-script talk about certain TV shows. All right, so I can cover TV shows, but it's going to all be on this other channel. So if you want, you can go sub to that channel if you wish, and be there. All right, be there. Because at one point, once I build that up, if I'm having a bunch of crazy people show up to the movie review stuff, because I don't know what that's going to be. Some of you guys maybe, but then it's going to be probably some different audience members and crazy people show up. I'm just like, no, like no, I don't do that shit. No, ain't fucking happening. I got to be very careful. There's a lot of topics that are so hot right now that even our free Joe Rogan talk, I got to be very careful. There's a lot of things I'm tempted to talk about because it can be interesting nerding out on some things, but like conspiracy theories in real life. But no. And there's too many people that have various opinions about these things. But I'll be honest with you guys. Don't think if you walk outside of my YouTube stuff, if you go to other platforms I'm on, like X, you're probably going to see me say some stuff that you might not agree with, or you might agree with, but I got to be free to open my mouth somewhere. At least I don't do it here. I can't really do it here. I can't really do it on YouTube. YouTube is not an appropriate place to be talking about certain things. And I've done too much work on the channel now, focused on just the games, that I don't even want to freehand talk about stuff that you guys might not care if I talk about, but it's just like YouTube might care if I talk about it. So it's like, no. No. That's how it works. The Willy Wonka thing, I think, will be more interesting than people would think it is. If you haven't heard, there's a conspiracy out there, very popular one. So I'm not trying to introduce you to something that hasn't been covered before, but I do have my own take on it and have some interesting facts. And I'd be talking like this, right? We won't be watching a movie together. That's not my reviews, right? But it will be talking about the movies up and down, promoting the movies, trying to convince you a good reason to go watch them, right? I'm considering doing some Rumble stuff. But if I do Rumble, I have no intention on making any success from that, because I know it's like even tabletop role-playing and stuff. I don't know if I'd ever want to do that over there, because every person that's on Rumble that I know are people that just don't like me. That's an audience that doesn't like my stuff. So it's like, that's why I'm not in a rush to go to Rumble. The movie stuff, maybe, but I'm just not in a rush to go to Rumble because there's no audience for me there. I can't even recruit an audience. Like I can't go do, like they already, it's just years of hating me already. And that's like the only guys over there. So it's like, it's not even worth going to do content on Rumble right now, at least not tabletop role-playing stuff for sure. It's not even worth it. Like I simply will not get an audience there, so it's not worth my time. Uh, and if people like Rumble, I got nothing against that. I hear some people out there promoting Rumble and hating on YouTube. I don't care. Look, I did the Sega Genesis versus Nintendo war. I did the Editions war. If you tell me like, oh, you're a Rumble guy and you hate YouTube, I just know, dude, I'm not into any of those wars anymore. I don't give a fuck. I do YouTube. That's it. I don't care if you like Rumble. I don't got a fucking opinion. It's just personally, Rumble's no good to me. Yeah, now, like what you're saying, Monkey, I might do that for something special like that, which is a good idea, Monkey. I actually agree. That's good advice that you're giving me there. If I wanted to say, if I built up a good enough audience with the movie things, movie reviews, that'd be something where it'd be like, hey guys, do you want to go watch a movie? Would you want to watch movies with me? And if you say yes, it'd be like, okay, but then I think what I would do is plan pauses. So if I were to go watch a movie, I'd plan pauses with you. I just want to watch it. Like, if I just want to watch a movie, I'll just tell you to go watch it. I'll go watch it. I don't need to fucking put that up on Rumble. But if I want to watch it with you and like interact, I want that to be part of what we're doing, right? I want that to be a show where it's like, okay, we watched 20 minutes of it, and I'm going to know where we're pausing. We're pausing here, and we're talking. And I would want it to be that type of interactive watching experience where we're purposely stopping, being nerds together and talking about the movie and then starting back up. Like a period of time of talking, go back into the movie. So it be that type of stream. I would never just be like, here's a stream of a movie and you watch. I mean, you can just go watch the fucking movie. You don't need me to fucking stream it for you on Rumble. That's stupid. And I don't need an audience that bad. Like, if I get to stream movies and it takes no talent to get people on Rumble in that way, I'd be like, that bores the piss out of me. Not even slightly interested in doing that. Again, I'm still one of these content creators that feels like everything I do, I have to earn it. So if I was going to stream a movie, it'd be time pauses, talk, and me try to make that interesting for you. That would be my aim with the movie. But yeah, I mean, outside of that, I'm just not a big fan of Rumble because it's just there's, especially because I mostly do the tabletop role playing game stuff. And that's what disappoints me about Rumble. Like when I look at the old school audience that is there, like the potential people that go watch my stuff, it's just almost 100% of the guys that just hate my guts. So I'm just like, I mean, I can go over to Rumble and get like 2 people, 3 people. It just bores me. And I'm not saying I need to worry about money, but even if I do it for happiness and pleasure, I'd rather do it where there's more of an audience. And I got more of an audience on YouTube. So why bother giving my time to Rumble? Why even sort of co-stream? I didn't even see the point of it. It's like you can stream at the same time on Rumble. Yeah, and I'll pick up 8 people over a year. Just no. And all 8 people will likely still be on YouTube anyway. It's like, hey, 8 guys over there that are already subbed to the YouTube channel, just stay subbed to the YouTube channel. That's the best way to go about it. Fuck Rumble. I don't hate Rumble. It's just the audience over there is just not open. It needs to get more tabletop role playing game people over there. It can't it just pretty much has 100% of the people that already reject me here. So I'm just like, yeah, that's Rumble for me. So you can promote Rumble all day to me, but it means nothing if I get over there and I can't get anything. Yeah, I mostly do tabletop role playing game content. So what's the point of putting stuff up on Rumble? I'm considering putting some more stuff directly up on X. Maybe I might, but Rumble, no. Just not interested in Rumble. It has to grow. It has to get somewhere. I'm too many sabotage years for me. Like if the audience over there would be open to giving me an opportunity, I would. But I mean, right now, outside of you guys that don't know many of certain people, if certain people that are part of that circle even try to talk to me, people will attack them and give them heat. So even people that want to be open with me have to be quiet about it. And there's some other content creators that, well, I'll just be honest with you guys, they come here to hear what I have to say, and then they go on their content and they just use my stuff. And then there's just some haters too. So I got some hate watchers. I got guys that are constantly trying to steal ideas off me. I mean, the stealing idea thing has been going on for years. That I know for sure. I mean, I see it all the time. People come watch me and then go say my shit on their stuff. And they do that because they think the wider audience that hates me is more open to them. So if what I'm doing is interesting, they do it, but they get the people watching them from that circle. They think it's like, so they'll take my shit, go do that. Yeah. So now I just try to do stuff that is harder for them to do. That's all. I purposely now do my streams and do certain videos and talk in certain ways that, like, I purposely, if you might notice, I purposely talk about stuff that they oppose on purpose. Like, a lot of my videos are straight out just, you want to steal my stuff? Well, then how about I just talk about stuff that's going to piss you off? Because then you won't steal it. You won't even want to agree with me. There's no way you're going to take this and do this on your content. So that's done. It's taking care of that. And the streams, I do coverage of games and that they don't even want to talk about, or they haven't even ran, they know nothing about. And the type of coverage I do on the games, they just can't do. They can't copy it. So the most they can do, like that D&D stuff, when I started explaining proper D&D that I know the guys didn't know for years, like old guys here on YouTube, especially well-known guys, have been incorrectly talking about old school Dungeons and Dragons for decades. And I mean, some really well-known guys, right, have been incorrectly talking about what the designers intended from D&D for decades, especially on their content. The only thing I knew is once I started explaining accurately what D&D was, they would all a bunch of them would start pretending like they knew all this stuff the entire time. They would start talking. They would start repeating some of the stuff I'm saying. And they did. They did exactly what I was telling you guys they would. They did exactly what I told you. Remember, Monkey, I was telling you? I said, look, I mentioned tonight, they're going to go on their streams and they're going to talk like they knew this shit. What did they do? They did exactly what I told you they would do, Monkey. Yet you go to the history of their content and they talk in an alternative way. They talk like they don't know this stuff. They have completely different advice that would go against what I said that night. But then they're suddenly on their streams talking as if what I said, oh yeah, they knew the entire time. There'd be no credit that, oh wow, Stephen really knows D&D really well, and he was talking about, like, they wouldn't. There was no honest conversation. I knew exactly what I said. Monkey is exactly what they did. Some of the bigger guys too. I knew they would. I said, I'll talk correctly about D&D because most of these guys don't. I'll tell you about the lack of early combat, and you should avoid it. That's what the designers intended. And these guys do not talk this way. Like encounters, you're supposed to avoid. That's the advice given to you. Almost every old school guy doesn't talk that way. They talk about making multiple characters and going into fight because they don't know these things. They don't know the designers intended this. They didn't realize it. You can tell by the way they talk in their content, completely warped views of D&D. Old school. I said, I'll talk about it. They have no history of ever talking about D&D this way. I said, guarantee some of the bigger old school YouTube channels that talk about D&D will suddenly go on their streams and suddenly they'll know this stuff. They didn't know it before I mentioned it, but now they know it. So stuff is taken from my content so often that I'm very careful. Like I sort of knew I was going to give that away. I knew they'd be going around like, yeah, we knew this the entire time. Well, what about all these other fucking streams where you're talking in ways that tell everybody you don't know shit? Why are you talking about D&D in a way that says it's completely alternative to what the designers intend? But now you know. Come on, guys. Come on. You didn't know shit. And there's no credit given. So then, but that is even worse. It's greediness for them. And now the door can't be open for me talking to them. They can't acknowledge Stephen really is on to something with old school D&D. And that door gets open. And no. It's all about their, see, that's what So I don't like interacting with other YouTubers. There's a lot of selfish, it's me shit. I don't like it. It's two-faced. Backstabbing is constant on here. Constant lying and bullshitting, unless you're in their circle and they can bring you on the stream, but then they're still getting something out of it. With me, since they don't bring me on their streams, they'll take what I say that they don't know, and suddenly they had the wisdom the entire time. But yet you can't find that wisdom in their content for all the years they've been on here. You can go back to every stream. Where's the wisdom? Where's the wisdom? Don't see it, don't hear it, don't see it, don't hear it. Suddenly I mention it, and the next day, guess what, guys? I've known this the entire time. No, you haven't. No, you haven't. You haven't known shit. I thought it was going to be sort of ha-ha, because I did that whole rundown on what D&D really is and the designers. Because I personally know, and I've heard so many guys talk about D&D incorrectly for years, even the raw guys. We talk about it raw. It's like even the Bro OSR stuff. Want to know what stuffed them right out? Want to know why everybody calmed down on them? Everybody calmed down. My video of TSR versus Bro OSR. Go back to it. Everybody talked about it. Everybody even acknowledged it. It was so good. It was acknowledged because they were like, we found secrets, and this is what Gary Gygax meant. And I went, nope, here's the comparison. They didn't mean it. And then even worse, what the Bro OSR, what tore them down was they spent about 2 years with nobody arguing back against them correctly. It's a war game. It's a war game. No, it's not a war game. Here's details. I can prove it. And as soon as I put that content out, Monkey, those guys had to start verbally, not acknowledging that they were wrong. They started talking like this. Well, it would have been nice if they really would have pushed wargaming back into AD&D 1E. Yet you can go back like a few weeks before they start talking like this and see them saying AD&D 1E is wargaming. And then suddenly, after I do my video, well, I wish they didn't take wargaming out. Wait, you said a few weeks ago a whole bunch of fucking posts about it being nothing but pure wargaming. Now you talk like it's not wargaming at all. Yeah, it's because of me. It's because of me. Again, the lack of the Bro OSR now has to accept their style is not what TSR meant or Gary. It's not a secret at all. It's pretty much their own unique idea. But it's not a secret from the history of D&D. And now they actually talk like that openly. They actually acknowledge it. They have to. That video is too strong. The video is just a fact-based coverage of comparing what the Bro OSR does to what Gary and TSR actually meant by shared worlds in one-to-one time. So, not the same guys at all. And the facts do not line up on your side. But every time I do that stuff, I have more influence than people like to admit. It's just true. A lot of guys on here, oh, he has no influence. Yeah, look, I'm not copying your content. You're copying mine. All right? I have no influence. You're not saying things that make me change how I speak because I'm right. But when I say things, you got to change how you speak because I'm right. See, I have the influence. People don't have it back on me. It's just true. It's absolutely true. Right? I don't got to copy them. They got to copy me. So now it's just, since they've been doing that to me for a few years, I just, I make it hard now. That's why I purposely will talk about things that I know they just oppose. Like a lot of guys it's like the module thing. None of the content is deceitful as far as I've never ran a module. I prefer sandboxing, and I think that's a better way to do it. But I also know a bunch of the guys love modules. And I know, even though I'm going to be right on this whole module thing of sandboxing, it's good content. It's actually got a good reaction. But they won't want to talk about it. They won't want to steal that because they disagree with it. It's not that they disagree with it, just they have an agenda towards the modules. So they don't want to promote sandboxing and kill the whole module thing. And when I talk about what modules really were, when I mentioned they were money grab content, it's not that I'm lying. I'm actually accurate, but the guys who like modules will be offended by me saying that because they get this agenda in their head. They like the modules. But when I say, yeah, that was TSR's money grab. And I said, to me, because you can do the sandboxing, in principle, it's no different than AI slop. In a way, it is. It's a cheap money grab. Here's stuff you could just do for yourself, but they stopped teaching you that. And then to get even more cheap, TSR tried to redefine sandboxing into their modules so you wouldn't know, so they wouldn't teach their customers what real sandboxing is. Because if they did, well, you'd find out that your adventures for you and your players would be better, personally, than any module could produce for you. And what the sandbox allowed you to do is get away from the railroad. See, the railroad wasn't an early thing. You'd be like, railroading, man, that's what D&D is about. That's not what AD&D and Beckme was about. The whole railroad concept kicks in with modules. Because now you got pre-made adventures, and to get players on the pre-made stuff, you have to sort of force them onto it and then keep them on the line. And that's module DMs, uncreative DMs. That's the guys who started railroading everyone. These are the guys with no talent at all. The railroad comes from DMs that have no fucking talent for running games at all. Can't improvise, can't do much. It's a truth. Now, guys will get offended by me saying that, but am I wrong? If you go to Sandbox, players can do whatever they want to do. And that's how the early gaming was. That's how every other fucking game pretty much outside of D&D was. That's how tabletop role-playing games were pitched to players. Get in and play how you want, do whatever you want to do. Now, why could D&D say that early? Why did TSR have that as early promotion in their product? If you're going to start pushing modules that need a railroad, why with AD&D and Beckme would you keep telling players they can do what they want? Well, if you've not been back in the old school era, you won't know. If you didn't talk to the guys that were actually doing this in the 70s, and I talked to a lot of these guys, I've talked to them, like when AD&D and Beckme come out and there was no real modules in the same way you see them come out close to the end of Beckme, what were you doing early? And they use terms like sandbox. And the game was promoted as players do whatever they want to do. Why would that be the case? Because they're sandboxing. So that's the initial way you're meant to play D&D. Do what you want to do with a setting. The setting you could build up on your own, but that could be more challenging. And that was a more reasonable, I guess, money grab approach. But it also gave new people that didn't understand. I understand Greyhawk, because Greyhawk's like, if you've never heard of a tabletop role-playing game before and you don't even know where to start with the sandbox, it's one thing to sandbox and build your own adventure. It's another thing to sandbox and try to build your own setting. So that's a way that makes sense to me. I get Greyhawk, I get the dungeons, and that also comes to us a form of play. Greyhawk is the location for the dungeon play, which is going to be part of the game. That all made sense to me. It's a sandbox, do what you want outside of the dungeon. No railroad. You weren't forced to the dungeon. You went to the dungeon if you want to. There was just many reasons to go to the dungeon. Right? But you do what you want. You do what you want in the city. You do how you play the game whatever way you want. Railroad become a big thing with modules. So when we get the curse at railroad gimmick where people complain about the railroad later, it's all module play. It's real. So just change the whole concept of D&D. Now, I did that video and I'm very accurate. The modules are adventures being made for you that you don't need made for you. They look pretty art. They're pretty toys. I don't deny it. They're pretty toys, right? But you don't need them. And actually, you find out your sandboxing adventures for you and your players are always going to be better. Like, neat ideas, but your personal adventure is going to be better because you're going to design it the way you want. It's your creativity. This is part of how you game as a game master. Part of playing the game as a game master isn't just running it like a machine with a module and running raw. The way you experience a game like your players is improvisation. Because they got to improvise everything they're doing. But guess what? That's the way, as a game master, you're meant to play too. You're actually playing when you improvise. And a game master should see it that way. You're not just working and making stuff up. Your improvisation is how you play. So if anybody wants to call you another player at the table, if you are in any aspect, the way you play the game is through improvising and making shit up. It's rolling with the punches. And then you design, because players will do this with their own ideas. Between sessions, players are meant to think about what they want to do now that they've done so many things with their character. And what you're supposed to do as a game master is take all the things you've improvised, you've planned out, or came up with, and you start designing all that. It's all designed together as a team sport. But how you play the game is through improvising. The second I give you a module and say run it raw, the book becomes the king, no longer you, and your creativity is out the door. Now you're a machine slave. And AD&D 1E, I go back to it, 1E tournament play, raw with module. You in 2026, an AI could easily right now run that, could replace you. And to a degree, you were just a middleman between a book that was running the game for you back with tournament play. But that was a great thing. If you're a shop owner and you need to run the game for your shop, you can let the book run the game for you. That's raw. So I don't know. Just saying. Less than an hour, then we hit Dark Sun. But that's why I started doing that content with the module stuff, because it's like I'm right. It's interesting. And I know a lot of non-D&D guys will agree with what I'm saying. And even some D&D guys will agree, because a lot of D&D guys, go check out the comments. And I know a lot of guys that don't want to say this aloud. They love sandboxing. They love it. They never, tons of guys in the D&D old school never touched modules. They relate with what I'm saying. Since they have no emotional attachment, the reason I'm getting such a good reaction on that video where I call it like modules like AI slop, and guys are going like, yeah. Because I'm saying, if you don't like something cheap being sold to you, like if your principle on being against AI slop, in a way you should be against what I call money grab content from TSR. In a way you should almost oppose the modules if you oppose AI slop. It's really no different. It's cheap money grab. And again, when they try to redefine sandboxing, I thought that was like cursing the whole gimmick. When they said, we no longer teach sandboxing to DMs, let alone that, we're going to redefine sandboxing into the module to make you keep buying this and trick you. You're not even going to know that you're meant to use sandboxing to make your own adventures. We're going to redefine what the whole sandbox is and trick you. And then the splat books for second edition, even I'm a second 2E guy, I like some of the stuff, but it was a cheap money grab. It was TSR getting desperate and being cheap. And to me, it's so cheap the way they did it. It's no different than AI slop. Right? It's garbage. And what happened when you got modules and you got splat books? You got less new games. And what happened when they weren't doing the AI slop sort of money grab stuff with TSR? That's when you get all their best stuff. You got your gangbusters, you got your top secret, right? You even at the end, you got Alternity finally when they stopped doing splat books and started making a new game. And even some of the settings became money grabs. Like Greyhawk, I sort of got to teach you the whole system in the game. That made sense. But a lot of settings were money grabs, because at a certain point, you should know how to make your own setting. I made Skullhorn casually through sandboxing. I just kept running adventures. I start the world, start a city. I build up around it. Then I build more. Then I need to detail the gods out more. And the more I play with it, the more I need to add to it and add to it and add to it and add to it and add to it. And at one point, it's just its own thing. Right? And now I start using this world for any sort of medieval fantasy system I want to start doing, like my own. So Greyhawk, I sort of got as a good starting point to understand D&D being what it was for gameplay, and it's a good teaching tool to teach you, but it's a great starting point, and then you make your own stuff. So, and then when sandboxing, I said that. Then to follow it up, I think I did a great video, because I mean, great as in if you don't know this stuff, I'm going to teach you it. Which the next video I did is how to actually do sandboxing. And I get a great reaction on that one too, because everyone listened to that one. Yeah, you're right on the AI slap thing. Then they jump over to the video where I actually explain in detail how to sandbox your own adventures in your own setting. And I do it in such a clear way that you can't mistake it. You can't listen to that. If you listen to that video start to finish, my sandbox, my most recent video, by the end of it, I've already planted the seed in your head. You're done. No matter, you can say whatever you want to me. You're going to know how to sandbox your own adventure and your own setting. Like, I've got you. I'm so clear in the video on what to do, and you'll realize it's all easy. And for guys that have never done this stuff, they're just going to be like, oh, shit. There's no way. You can't listen to that video and not at the end of it go, fuck, he's right. And when you hear me explaining how you build your own adventure, you realize that's more fun than running a module. And that's the biggest secret of all. Doing your own adventures is way better than running any module. That's why I got addicted to doing my own stuff. And some guys tried modules, and then when they figured out what sandboxing was and did it. And there's some guys that went from Traveler back to D&D. They went to modules, they went to Traveler, they sandboxed, went, oh, this works. They went back to D&D and said, I can do the same thing here. Yeah, you can. They did it and went, oh, shit. It works. And it's better. It's better because it's the way, as a game master, you start being creative and interacting with the whole thing. And you realize by doing the modules, that gets lost. And there's a whole experience that has just been taken away from you. And the more you do modules, it makes you weak too. Because it makes a lot of guys like, I know guys that done modules that be like, man, I avoid improvising too much. Why? It's so easy. But not to them. They've been so dependent on the modules that they become weak in the mind. And then some guys aren't just here. I'll be honest with everybody here. Some guys, because if you're doing tournament play like raw, by the book and modules, you don't need to be good enough to be a game master. You could be a drooling janitor who can't think right, and you could run the game. That's the problem, though. If I say, okay, what if I take raw and the module away from you? Can you sandbox? A lot of the tournament play guys, a lot of old school AD&D when you guys couldn't do that. That's why I pick on them. I said that last stream too. I pointed that out where they'll be like, well, I'm nostalgic for AD&D 1E. It's the best. I'm like, no, you're not. You're just stuck there because you can't run another game. You're actually not capable. I can't take you over to second edition. The reason you'll deny second ed is because you can't run it. You can adapt some stuff to your AD&D 1E game, but you're not nostalgic for it. It's not the best. You're just stuck there. And then these guys make content. They make videos, and they'll be like, man, raw is so important. I'm like, yeah, because you don't want people knowing the truth. Raw is not important. It's not even the centerpiece of old school D&D. A real DM would never need raw in the way you do. Guy. So it's just guys wanting to make their mediocrity seem to like sort of prop it up like this to make it seem like they're great. Like, we need raw. Well, that's weak. That's a crutch. So no, your crutch is not great. It's not real D&D. Real D&D is making up your own shit and being able to. All right. Real D&D is generic so you can make changes. And it's generic and made for changes when you go play any other game. Go play Pendragon. Go play Traveler. You come back to D&D and you realize, well, D&D is not even just a sort of thing. No, it's generic so you can do whatever you want. So actually, raw is not really that important. Exactly, dude. Raw is not that important. It's generic for a reason. It's generic so you can try 50 million different things. Oh. Yeah, because if you want a set feeling that's more control, go play one of the other games, and you'll realize you come back to D&D, you realize raw is the least important factor. It's not even important at all. Raw is only good for tournament play. Or insecure guys with no talent for DMing. So if you're just if you should be a player sitting at the player's chair and you don't got the capability of running the game, You'll love tournament play because it will allow you to pretend to be a DM. And there's nothing wrong with that. I actually think it's good because, like, look at even the Matt Mercer, even the new school. Go to the Matt Mercer world. Not every person steps up to run the game. And because it's assumed even in Matt Mercer's world that you need talent to be the guy running it, that when someone does and runs a good session, they're like, man, he ran pretty good. Because DMing or game mastering is always considered a talent-based place. But this is why guys without talent playing politics, if you don't have it and you see the respect a real game master is getting in the hobby, in the hierarchy, like, oh man, people take him serious. What if you're just not capable of being that guy, but you want to be? Like you want people to take you serious like other people take him serious. Like if you want people to take you serious the way people take him serious, well then how do you if you're not really capable of really game mastering, how do you get away with it? Raw and modules. That's how. The book runs the game for you. You don't need any talent at all. Again, I always figured out the guys would figure that out. I'm like, well, guys, have you not figured out in the AD&D 1E book, what's one of the more famous statements Gary makes? The DM is king. Well, if the game is meant to be raw, that makes the book king. And the book becomes so king that finally when you get to raw play is when you run into the troublemaker rule lawyer. That's where they exist. That's where they end up coming into the picture. Because once the book becomes king, now the player can look to the book and say, the book says this, meaning the book has more authority than the DM. Because the book is king. That's why a rule lawyer could, boom. But what's an old school rule lawyer? There's two definitions. I'll be like, well, they don't know a rule lawyer is this. You're right. A rule lawyer is someone that can be a little helpful, but understands that you have the authority at the end of the day, so they don't really argue. They'll point something out to you. I didn't even use a term for them, rule lawyer. It'd just be like guy at your table. It'd be like, hey, I noticed you missed something or something like that. And you go like, you respond to them and they say, okay, and then you move on. That's an old school rule lawyer because they give you the authority. They bring it up, but they understand you have the authority. But when it came to raw AD&D 1 tournament mindset play with modules, and the book becomes king, now for the first time, you get a new version of the rule lawyer that does not exist with second edition. You won't find these guys with second edition. You don't find them with the others. You only find them with AD&D 1E. And these are the guys that start the troubleshoot for you. Sorry that upset some old school people coming around. I know I've talked about this recently, but the reason I've been going on about this stuff is because I have to do content now. Well, I don't have to, but I do content now that it's just so less people want to fucking copy what I'm doing. And what makes some of them sad is there's a lot of other guys out in the hobby that agree with me. That's what's going to make them really sad. All right. And there's a lot of guys out there that actually go like, yeah, you're right. AD&D 1E raw by the module thing is for fucking a lot of weak people. It doesn't mean all bad DMs did that, because some people were just taught that but had some talent anyway. But it's just there's a lot of guys that are just guys that are not capable, in my opinion, of being game masters. That well to this day they'll say AD&D 1 rules. I'm like, yeah, it's not like you got another choice, right? It's not like you got another choice. You're going to have to say it rules. Now, there's other games out there that are, here's what they discovered, though, with some of the other side games. And here's where some of the guys actually got a little happy. Some of the non-D&D games are raw. And some of them didn't even know it, like Pendragon. Some AD&D 1E, you could get away with having a little less talent and to a degree, as long as you do what it says. You got to do a little bit of homework. But you can get away with running Pendragon as long as you put more heat to be creative on the players. Like, you don't got to be that hardworking. Traveler, no, most of the guys that were AD&D winning guys, the only guys I've seen try to cross over to Traveler, busted and lost trust of their players almost every time. Because they get into a Traveler game, Traveler, the game isn't going to tell you how the world reacts. So you just gotta be wise about how you react with the world. So that becomes a talent-based thing. Yeah, because if you react poorly with the world or the people, because the game is all about you reacting with the world in that way, it's a centerpiece of your job. That if you suck at doing that, you lose the trust of your players right away. So you can't suck at that part. It's a little bit of talent. And then when you get to spotlighting, here's what I would find funny with some guys that would try to run games like Cyberpunk or even the Villains and Vigilantes. I'd watch them. I've said this before, where guys would run it and they just would not do any of the talent-based stuff at all for the game. At all. Like I've seen guys do Villains and Vigilantes where the game master is not trying to spotlight. And so you'd hear complaints from the players like, man, it's always him that's like getting the most shine. And I'm like, it's not because he's taking it. It's because the game master is not spotlighting properly for you. He's not even trying. Because that's one area where you have to have talent. And if the guy running the game has no talent to speak of, he's not going to do the things that require talent to do. So then that becomes an aspect of the game you'll complain about, and he's just hoping it works out. He's put you in a scene. In Village of Vigilantes, he's hoping it just works out. Cyberpunk, same thing. Most of the game would suck, but guys might do an interesting, like the voice acting gimmick, like doing special voices. I hate to say it. I'm not picking on some guys out there, but there's a lot of guys out there that suck at these games. They have no talent for the game mastering part, but they'll have talent for like doing a voice, and that means they can make a character sound interesting for a minute. But the rest of the game pretty much is pretty lame. The part that holds up the game is the social interaction with NPCs. They'll be doing special voices, but I'm like, did you spotlight the characters? Are you getting the Cyberpunk feel? No. Like, dude, but that's the talent area as a game master. Same thing with players. I know a lot of shitty players out there that sucked at playing. They do these special voices. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with having the talent to do a special voice, but I'm like, most of them, it just happened to be, I think, because they felt like it covered their asses. Their decisions after they would start, like their decisions in the game were awful as players. And they wouldn't learn from mistakes. But man, they could do a unique voice. Now, I met a few guys that were good at doing unique voices and good at running and good at playing, but very few. A lot of guys use the unique voice acting as a way to cover their asses. Now, I can get some unpopular fucking streams going here when I talk about this stuff, or parts of my stream where people get a little pissy with me for bringing this stuff up. Oh, well, it is what it is. Almost time for Dark Sun. Now, I'll be honest with you, I might start slightly early tonight. Slightly. But yeah, people, because I'm only mentioning this tonight because I mentioned it last week, but people ask me why am I only doing certain videos and why I'm not doing more videos. I'm like, I'm being picky with the videos now, and because so many people copy what I say, I'm just starting to do content where I know there's people out there that agree with me, but it's also content where it's like, hey, it's a lot of shit I know the other content creators don't even want to agree with or talk about. So they can steal the D&D knowledge. Go ahead. Fair enough. I can't do much about that if I want to talk to you about it. So for me to choose to be honest about that stuff, I knew that would happen. But for the rest, like sandboxing, I think it's great. I think it's great to talk about it. I think it's a great video, but still, it's a video that a lot of guys sour on because it completely is an alternative to what they pitch and argue for with D&D. It's like my storytelling take. A lot of guys don't like that because I know it's, unless I keep mentioning the Castle Falkenstein and Pendragon being the only storytelling games out there, And even some of the World of Darkness guys will get mad at me when I say, your game is not storytelling. You're playing a game and the story emerges. And they know what that means. They know what that means. That means that they're just playing a game and you could tell a story from what they do with their characters. So initially, no, they're not collaborating. They're not writing a story. They're not storytelling. So it's like it's bullshit to say that's what you're doing. Even with D&D, we're collaborating. You're actually not. You're actually just playing a game. That's all you're actually doing. Like, actually, that's a fact. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. You're just playing a game. From the game, a story emerges. I covered 2 games and explained how games can be storytelling games, but then you need to actually be focused on actually telling a story for real with the game. Not just go, we're storytelling so we can get rid of character death. That's not storytelling. It's still you're playing the game, but you don't want to face character death. Like Pendragon, you actually, the way you have to play it as a character and the way the game master is to run it is to, you literally put it together and then play a character in a certain way, and the game master represents NPCs in a certain way, which is the intent to tell a story about the character. That's collaborating with the person running it and the players to tell a story. That's real storytelling and real collaboration. Castle Falkenstein has the same deal. You actually start the game with the intention to run a world, with the intent to tell a story from a novel. And players have to play the characters in a specific way to focus on telling that story. That's real storytelling and real storytelling collaboration. When you play 5e, there's no storytelling. Play 4e, no storytelling. No old school, not storytelling. World of Darkness is not storytelling. Traveler is not storytelling. Cyberpunk is not storytelling. None of them are storytelling. Every one of them are games, purely games. And I mean purely, and that's exactly what you're doing. Playing a game, there's elements where you can go, oh man, that could be turned into a story. Yeah, a story emerges. That's not you telling it. I put you in the city so you can get on the adventure. I don't put you in the city because it's interesting to see how you form a relationship and go to the play. And for storytellers, you need so much control over things. Dice, for the most part, kill portions of storytelling. Where in Pendragon and Castle Falkenstein, it will hint to you that you can ignore the dice. That's how important to tell a story is. What does it tell you with other games when it comes to ignoring the dice? It's only for the pace of the game, not for storytelling. So it says don't worry about the exact rule. It doesn't even say ignore the dice roll. It says maybe you can come up with a different dice roll to deal with that thing instead of digging in, because pace is important. That's to the experience of the game, not to telling a story. So in fact, it's not a debate. You're not collaborating. You're not storytelling. A story emerges the same way a story emerges when I go for a walk. I don't go for a walk to tell the story. I go for a walk, and by the end of the walk, you could tell a story from my walk. That's the same thing that is happening every time you play a tabletop role-playing game. You intentionally go in to play a game. By the end, you could tell a story from what you did with your characters. With Pendragon and Castle Falkenstein, you actually initially go in from the get-go, collaborating to tell a story. So every time you hear guys say that, they're unintelligent, like they're uninformed and they're wrong, or they're being deceitful, right? And some guys just tell themselves, oh, we're collaborating. No, you're actually not. The closest thing you could do to storytelling outside of Pendragon and Castle Falkenstein is live play. And live play is a bit different. That's when you're performing for an audience. Some people will say it's over-scripted, like they'll say the Matt Mercer stuff is over-scripted. I don't think it's always over-scripted, but there could be hints. I mean, I could see, I could see this without cheating. This would make more sense to me. I heard they actually do this, so I don't want to make any weird accusations like they scripted out parts of Matt Mercer's game. But Matt Mercer would give little hints like, well, what would you guys do if you ran into this? What would you guys do if you ran into this? And then he'd railroad them. So you would notice railroading. So what would he do? He'd railroad the characters towards something, and he's already given them hints of not scripting, but giving them time to think it over. What would you say if you got down to this area? What would you do if this happened to your character? So it's a way for players to know, hey, this is possibly going to happen on the railroad, and I should plan for what my character would say when we get there. And then when they would always obviously get there, you'd see things like there'd be little hints alive, like, we're at the thing. They'd say stuff like that that would give it away. Like, well, how would you know you're at the thing? Right? They would know stuff that it's not that it's scripted, but it's more like, hey, you're going to be railroaded to certain places. Here's a hint of the places so you can prepare. Not that you're scripting it, but maybe you can prepare just off the top of your, maybe make some notes if you want to, but not read from something. And then have some ideas of what you would do with your character when you got here. That is attempting to do a story in front of an audience. That's storytelling. But privately between you and your friends, without the audience watching at your table privately, you play a game. So only time you try to tell a story is maybe in front of an audience. And even then, you have to do these things that aren't normal to private gaming. You wouldn't do that in a private game. You wouldn't need to. So then you can sort of collaborate. What we do, how we tell this part of the story for this character. But you'll get guys out there that will be like, well, we're collaborating in a story. And they try to look at their characters as if they're getting ready to tell a story. They go and they play, and they end up just playing a game. And most of their ideas end up flopping or going nowhere or not playing well to the randomness. Because I'm like, want to know why you're not playing the character the way you planned? Because you couldn't plan that what was going to happen next. Because you're in the middle of a random game. I don't know how many of the so-called storytellers would be like, well, this is what I want to do with my character and tell a story about him this way. They get into the game, boom, this would happen. They lose the fight. The alternative to what they had in their mind. And like you're learning what a lot of players learned when they were younger. Man, I'm going to get in and kick ass with my guy. I can see where he's going. They're not storytellers, but they're having that same concept of, I know what I'm going to do with my character. And then they lose the fight. Things wouldn't go well. They didn't socially interact with something, and suddenly their hot character is not so hot. They got to it becomes like almost a reimagining of who the character is. What was in their head at the start is now different. A lot of players will understand that experience. They'll know exactly what I'm talking about. They'll have an idea of who their character is in their head, and they have to get in and deal with the randomness of a game. Because they're not storytelling. It's a game. And you can't predict. It's random dice rolling. You don't know if you're going to kick ass or do anything. All right. Some more of the better stuff. I'm going to start around 8, but what do I want? It's early. Let's tear into the fluff a bit here. A little bit on the fluff. Good stuff. Dark Sun 1991. Influences and birth of the setting. Why was Dark Sun created? By 1990, TSR already had several successful fantasy worlds. There was Greyhawk, Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms, Mysteria, and others. Most followed recognizable fantasy conventions, kingdoms, forests, knights, temples, powerful gods, and adventurers seeking treasure. The Dark Sun design team wanted something completely different. Rather than create another traditional fantasy setting, they deliberately set out to challenge many of the assumptions players had about Dungeons and Dragons. The goal was to give veteran AD&D players a world that felt dangerous, alien, and unfamiliar even after years of playing fantasy role-playing games. Dark Sun was designed to be a setting where survival mattered, resources were scarce, and players could not rely on normal expectations of a typical D&D campaign. All right, some of the stuff you might really not know. The War World Project. The War World Project. Dark Sun began life as a project called War World. The original concept was connected to TSR's efforts to support its battle system mass combat rules. Early ideas focused on a brutal world shaped by warfare and survival rather than traditional fantasy adventure. The first versions of the setting were far stranger than what eventually appeared in print. Many of the familiar D&D races were absent, and the setting looked more like a post-apocalyptic science fiction fantasy world rather than a traditional AD&D campaign setting. As development continued, TSR encouraged the designers to retain some recognizable D&D elements. Elves, dwarves, dragons, and other familiar concepts were brought back, but often in dramatically altered forms. The result was Athos, a world that felt connected to D&D while remaining unlike anything TSR had previously published. TSR wanted something different. One of the most important reasons Dark Sun exists is simple. TSR wanted a setting that would surprise experienced players. Many AD&D veterans had spent years exploring castles, kingdoms, dungeons, and wilderness frontiers. Dark Sun's designers wanted a world where players could rely on could not rely on those familiar assumptions. Instead, they introduced vast deserts instead of forests, tyrannical city-states instead of kingdoms, scarce resources instead of abundant treasure, half-giants and thrivekin alongside traditional races, psionics as a normal part of everyday life, survival as a major challenge. The goal was not merely to create a new setting. The goal was to create a setting that felt new. Post-apocalyptic influences. One of the strongest influences behind Dark Sun was post-apocalyptic fiction. Athos is not a world facing destruction. Athos is a world that has already been destroyed. The environment has collapsed. Civilizations have fallen. Resources have been exhausted. The survivors live among the remains of earlier ages while struggling to endure increasingly harsh conditions. This gives Dark Sun a feeling closer to a post-apocalyptic game than a traditional fantasy campaign setting. I'll read through the fluff here and then we'll have a bit of a talk about this. Dying Earth influences. Dark Sun also draws heavily from the Dying Earth tradition. Common themes include ancient civilizations lost to history, declining knowledge, environmental collapse, a world approaching its end, survivors living among forgotten ruins. Throughout Athos, traces of earlier ages can still be found, but much of that knowledge has been lost or corrupted. The world is not progressing, it is slowly dying. Sword and planet and science fantasy influences. The setting also drew inspiration from classic science fantasy and pulp adventure fiction. Among the most important influences were Richard Corbin's Den. Corbin's work featured muscular heroes, strange civilizations, bizarre creatures, brutal environments, and exotic science fantasy atmosphere. Many of those same qualities can be seen throughout Athos. Clark Ashton Smith's stories frequently explored dying civilizations, decadent rulers, ancient magic, hostile environments, and strange alien worlds. These themes fit naturally into the design of Dark Sun. Sword planet fiction. The broader sword and planet genre also left its mark on the setting. Like many of those stories, Athos feels alien despite being populated by intelligent races and advanced civilizations. The creatures, landscapes, cultures, and technologies often feel more like an alien world than a medieval fantasy campaign. Survival instead of heroism. Most fantasy settings assume characters will eventually become wealthy adventurers and celebrated heroes. Dark Sun asks a different question. Can you survive? Food is scarce, water is scarce, metal is scarce, weapons break, travel is dangerous, slavery is common. Many campaigns begin with characters struggling simply to stay alive. That's what I told you. The world is your enemy. When you start, it's like the adventure has begun when I say go. This emphasis on survival became one of the defining themes of the setting and helped separate Dark Sun from nearly every other AD&D world. Psionics finds their home here. Dark Sun was not originally created to support psionics. However, as the setting developed, TSR realized Athos provided a perfect environment for the material introduced in the complete psionics handbook. As a result, psionics becomes deeply integrated into the world. Unlike most AD&D settings where psionics were unusual or optional, Athos treated them as a normal part of everyday life. Nearly everyone possessed some level of psionics potential. This decision helped make the Dark Sun setting most strongly associated with AD&D 2nd Edition's psionics rules. The role of Brahm. No discussion of Dark Sun's creation is complete without Gerald Brahm. Most fantasy artists illustrate a setting after it has already been designed. Brahm helped shape Dark Sun while it was being designed. His artwork influenced creatures, equipment, cultures, and the overall visual identity of Athos. Designers had discussed how Brahm would create concepts that would later be incorporated directly into the setting itself. This gave Dark Sun a visual style unlike anything TSR had previously published. The harsh deserts, the bone weapons, the giant insects, the strange races, the brutal atmosphere. Most of what people immediately recognize as Dark Sun can be traced to Brahm's artistic influence. What made Dark Sun different? When Dark Sun arrived in 1991, it intentionally broke many traditional D&D assumptions. The world was already ruined. Arcane magic had devastated the environment. Psionics were common. Survival mattered more than treasure. Resources were scarce. Slavery was widespread. City-states replaced kingdoms. Traditional races were heavily altered. The environment itself was often the greatest threat. World versus you. Instead of asking players to explore a thriving fantasy world, Dark Sun challenged them to survive in a dying one. Dark Sun began as TSR's attempt to create something veteran AD&D players had never seen before, ever. What started as the War World project evolved into one of the most distinctive settings in Dungeons & Dragons history, inspired by post-apocalyptic fiction, Dying Earth stories, Sword and Planet adventures, and Brahms' unforgettable artwork. Athos became a world where survival mattered more than comfort, resources mattered more than wealth, and the greatest challenge was often staying alive long enough to change the world. Not establish yourself in some big way. Like everything I said earlier, this is sort of the fluff right here, explaining it all to you. It's a good start, right? That's the backdrop. That's the inspiration, how it came to be. It was a project called War World. It was meant to be about wargaming and then completely changed. Artwork changed it. It got changed in many ways. Psionics became a thing. As Psionics, the 2nd edition specialty book came out, they decided to say, okay, let's change this all up. And what you get out of it is this weird place where when the game starts, you're already in the adventure. The world's already against you. You're already surviving the moment I say, start, take a breath. Right? You're not like sitting at a table at an inn trying to figure out exactly what to do. That's not the way you approach it, right? And it's more about, you can't really establish yourself like, I'll build my kingdom when I'm level 9. No, if you can make a change in the world, that's great, but that's really all you can do. That's going to be your aim. Surviving your direct encounters with this new crazy stuff, and how the game is built around the artwork is quite interesting because it brings this insane stuff in. It was fun. And it ended up not being the wargaming thing that they thought it was going to be. The whole project was based on wargaming. and then turned into this whole weird game. I say weird because weird is considered a part of Dark Sun. It is actually, it doesn't shy away from it. I don't say that as an insult. I say that as something the setting leans into. It is weird. It wants to be weird. It wants to be considered weird, as in weird different. There, that's a good start. There's your fluff. There's your fluff. Now, when I go into the next rundown thing, it's going to be explain to you how this has a connection to Conan, or at least in ideas in sword and sorcery. After that, we'll go into how to run the setting. That's going to be good. If you ever want to run Dark Sun, you're going to want to hear that. And then what I'm going to finish off is teaching you properly what psionics is in 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. What it is, how it works, the whole 9 yards. So you're going to be well informed. You're going to be well informed. You're going to know how to, you're going to learn, get good advice and get an idea of how to run Dark Sun from someone who's actually done it 3 different campaigns. You're going to learn about psionics if you don't know them better. You're going to get a mindset with the sword and sorcery and Conan things, so you can get a better mindset of what you should have looking at Dark Sun. And the fluff is just to get you an idea of how it came to be, the background, how it got designed, because I thought that was unique. It's unique how it came into existence. It wasn't like just something that just popped out of nowhere. They start with this idea, they want something different, and then you get this whole weird sort of monster of all this fluff, right, going down. I hope so far that all sounds a little interesting. Good so far, right? Good so far. Kabang. I hear there's a lot of stuff going on with D&D, but I don't talk about a lot of the controversies with WotC and all that all the time, because to me, it's cheap content. It gets you a few views, and I don't know. Some of it seems uninteresting. It's gone a week. I don't think it's important to most people. I think people are just clicking on it so they can hear something new. Here's a new controversy with wizards. Yeah, who gives a fuck? Boring. Most of the guys talking about it boring. Most of it, I call it like, they put titles up about the way the game works. Like, they're finally giving it into old school guys, and they'll talk about it like as if the YouTubers and the guys that are normally complaining are the guys wizards are bowing to. And it's like, no, it's the majority of people that don't listen to those YouTubers. Yeah, here's another thing I wanted to talk about that I think is really important. So guys will look outside of the circle they're in, the old school here, and they look at some other odd Otis circle guys, and they'll be like, there's a guy over there who does, he's completely not in our circle. He does AD&D 1E, and the guy has like 40 or 50,000 subs. Now, he's just doing by the book, but he's at a part of the audience where there's not another circle, there's no drama, and they're playing Yes Man, but that doesn't matter. It's weird. I actually follow some guys, I sub to some guys that hate 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Absolutely hate it. I also talk to some guys and sub to some guys that hate pure theater of the mind. They despise it. They prefer miniatures, and they talk down about it all the time. Now, I love 2nd edition. My preferred way to play is pure theater of the mind. And you think, well, why would you sub to him? Why would you be following that person or this person or the other person? Because there's several of the guys I sub to. Well, it's because I agree with them on other things. Now, that might sound, that, to a lot of new school guys, that sounds like, oh, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. I'm like, it sounds like something silly for me to even have to point out to new school people. But the old school people, they should get why I'm pointing it out to them. Because here in the old school, when you get to the majority of the audience, if it's very tribal, it's very split up, and most of the guys don't have bigger followings than that one guy was talking about. Most guys have lower followings, and I'll tell you, there's a major reason why. Major reason. It's so tribal here because most of the audience, if you say 5% of what they don't agree with, will not sub to you. Like, it makes the old school seem insane to me. Like, I could say 80% of what they agree with, but if I don't like miniatures, they won't sub to me. I could say 90% of what they agree with, but if I don't like AD&D 1E, I prefer second edition, they won't sub to me. Yet you go to the new school, and almost every one of their audience members are way less tribal. Their guys are all pumped up on numbers. And the reason is, Matt Colville could say 30, 40% of what you don't agree with, and as long as he says 60%, they'll sub to him. Because they're willing to overlook where they disagree. Like, they don't get so butthurt over small disagreements. And that's so normal to them that the idea of you being picky because one guy doesn't like something you like, they would call you stupid in the new school. And most other parts of YouTube, they would call you stupid for being that picky with people and who you support. When you get to the old school, especially around a certain circle, a certain portion of the audience are so picky that if you say one thing they don't agree with, you can't get their support. It's like you could do all this other stuff that they're happy with, and it's like, oh, one thing, can't get your support. Well, that means I couldn't be perfect for you, dude. It's you're fucked. You're tribal. It's the reason why some guys could have 30,000, 20,000 subs and they don't. It's the reason why the audiences are all split. There's all this crankiness, hating each other. Somebody says something slightly out of line, you lose people. And so when you start forming your tribes here, it becomes that they all agree with you on everything. You'll notice when guys have a certain audience, it's like everything they say is agreed with. Everything. You know, if they say something, the audience they have, yep. This guy said, yep. And you won't see like many guys in the audience at all that disagree. There are some exceptions, like guys who do panels. There's one guy I think breaks the rules on this, but it's because he built up a large audience, so it's like an exception. I'll give it to Max Leal. I think he's one of the most unique guys around the old school. Probably the only guy I see out there that when he says stuff, because he has so many panel guests and he's so big and already had a reputation before people could plunge it, they haven't bothered. Now, some people have decided, I mean, he would even tell you that, like, he changed his content. He lost some people. Some new people came to him, but he's a guy who definitely has more people disagreeing with him, but then he'll have panelists on people that are going to say stuff that the audience likes anyway, right? And even some of the panelists will get shit on, but that's a different world. But he's like the only YouTuber I see out there doing it who gets anything. But that's more because, unlike say me, I almost don't see Max as just an individual YouTuber. He's always coming with a package. He does some stuff by himself, but he's not like constantly doing content by himself. So that's a different feed. When you get to most of the other YouTube guys, it's all tribal. Agree. And if you don't agree, you're not in that audience. But I mean, if you don't agree with 5% of what that guy says, you're not in his audience. And you could agree with 95% of what he says, and you're not getting no support. I'm like, that's why there's guys out there in the old school that are separate from that will casually outnumber them in subs. They'll struggle to get to 10,000, and then they casually go look at a guy with like 40 who's been doing it for less amount of time. And he's just not stuck in the circle of tribalism. So he has separated himself. But it's like, wow. I'm like, yeah, because you're fucking tribal. You're too picky. Somebody has to be perfect for you. That's impossible. Right? It's impossible. If you expect perfection, it's like, look, I don't like that either. I like getting support, but I hate it when people come to me at the starting point of agreement and then just keep agreeing with me. I'm like, just dude, recognize where you don't agree with me and make sure you're okay with it. That's why I talk about stuff with my audience where I'll disagree. I always hope they don't just go splitting off on me. I'm like, some guys have different opinions with storytelling. I'm like, I'll mention it just because I know they don't agree with my take on it. I'm willing to have the disagreement, but it doesn't mean it's like, look, I'm on the thing. So if I talk to you about something, The other thing I hate doing is getting to the point of arguing over small things. Like if there's enough to establish something as something, I'm like, all right, let's just establish it as that. That's why I put up a recent post saying I hate getting stuck on little details. I don't like getting stuck in certain debates on little details. I hate it. I think it's stupid. But if I say D&D is the first tabletop role-playing game, it's what I'm saying is the entire package. If you say all these other things that are similar to it, well, that was here before, but it's not really a tabletop role-playing game. Well, I'm not really saying on the technical side that you're wrong as far as that was doing role-playing with dice or something. Like there's all these little technical things I'm actually not disagreeing. But for the sake of conversation, and because I think there is some props deserved to be given, that I don't want to ever pick apart the conversation and get stuck. So I'm like, let's just accept D&D was the first, give it the earned props because it creates the whole package, and that whole package becomes something that inspires a lot of other things. I'd say that, I know guys that don't like D&D, I don't say that to piss them off. I'm just like, now that's my take. I don't tell you that you have to agree with me. But at the same time, I hate it. The only thing I don't like is when people try to redefine what I'm saying. Like, well, you're wrong. Yeah, but I'm not arguing about the thing. Like, if I said it's the first role-playing game, and I'm only pitching it as role play with dice without all the other elements I'm counting, then you could say, well, there was already role playing with dice and doing this, role playing a character with dice beforehand. Okay, you're right. Did that involve, though, the rest of the package, the DM, the other players, the dungeon play, all the other small elements that make up the whole package? No. So when I say D&D is the first tabletop role-playing game, my argument is say you don't have to agree with that, but I won't let you redefine my argument into me arguing something I'm not. I get nerdy on that stuff because the reason I'll get a little picky on that is because I hate getting stuck in minute, minor details that mean nothing. And if they are two different things, it's like talking about two different sports, right? All right. So we did the fluff. Fluff we already covered. Let's go into the second part of this stream. All right, fluff is already covered. Conan and sword and sorcery influences on Dark Sun. And we talked about the history already. Now we talk about the Conan and sword and sorcery relation to it. It's important. Dark Sun is not traditional fantasy. When most people think of D&D settings, they think of high fantasy. There are kingdoms, noble rulers, powerful churches, shining knights, and relatively stable civilizations. Dark Sun moves away from that model. Instead, it embraces many of the ideas found in classic sword and sorcery fiction. The focus is not on protecting civilization. The focus is often surviving it. What is sword and sorcery? Sword and sorcery is a style of fantasy associated with writers such as Robert E. Howard, Clark Ashton Smith. Unlike epic fantasy, sword and sorcery stories usually focus on individuals rather than kingdoms, nations, or world-spanning conflicts. Common themes include survival, personal freedom, corrupt rulers, ancient ruins, lost civilizations, dangerous magic, harsh wilderness, treasure, and opportunity. Many of these themes appear throughout Dark Sun. I hear you. Hope you heard that part, Black Rose. This is the first part of the Conan Sword and Sorcery part. I did the fluff already. I already did the fluff. Just a little background on this, but the really important stuff, the psionics, how to run it, all that it's coming. But yes, that is what sword and sorcery is. It's more focused on the individual in these type of settings and saying, looking at the bigger picture, right? It's looking at the individual story within instead of the bigger picture. Dark Sun and Conan. Dark Sun is not a Conan setting, nor was Conan the sole influence behind its creation, as I've already explained. The setting was shaped by a wider mix of sword and sorcery, science fantasy, post apocalyptic fiction, and dying world themes. However, Dark Sun shares many traits that fans of Conan immediately recognize. Both feature brutal environments, dangerous city states, slavery, corrupt rulers, ancient ruins, sorcerers who wield terrible powers, individuals struggling for freedom and survival. The comparison is useful because both settings place ordinary survival and personal action ahead of grand heroic destiny. Oh no, you only missed the fluff. So this is just the second part. There's two more parts after this. You just missed the fluff. So the fluff is just how I do is the birth of the game, how it came to be, right? Which it's interesting. You can catch up on that later, but you're into the meat of the meat on the bone type of part. So you're at the good stuff. Don't worry. And after this, I'll give an update to you on my new stream and my new channel. I did something crazy today. We're going to be covering a movie tomorrow night on my new channel. Old channel revamped into a movie review channel. I don't want to say more. We're going to focus back on this. Civilization is often the problem. In many fantasy settings, civilization represents safety. In sword and sorcery stories, civilization is often corrupt. Dark Sun follows tradition closely. The city-states of Athos are not shining centers of justice. They are oppressive regimes ruled by sorcerer kings. Remember I said authoritarian. Slavery is common, like I've already said. Political intrigue is constant. The powerful exploit the weak. Many adventurers revolve around surviving or resisting those systems rather than serving them. This is one of the strongest sword and sorcery elements within the setting. The city-state is like an authoritarian ruler type of situation. And you can go into them and see how people are controlled. It can try to control you. You can resist it. This be like a Conan gimmick, right? Slave. This is where they say Dark Sun. You can connect to Conan, but really, the real inspiration really isn't Conan. It is the dying world. It is the art behind the whole thing, and sword and sorcery storytelling, which is the concept behind Conan rather than Conan itself, right? Sorcerer kings and classic pulp villains. Many sword and sorcery stories feature powerful tyrants, corrupt priests, kings, and ancient rulers, and sinister sorcerers. The sorcerer kings of Athos combine all of those archetypes. They are political rulers, religious authorities, powerful spellcasters, near mythic figures. Rather than hiding in distant towers, they actively dominate entire city-states. This gives Dark Sun villains that feel very much at home in classic pulp fantasy while still remaining unique to Athos. Ancient ruins and lost ages. Another major sword and sorcery theme is the presence of forgotten civilizations. Heroes explore ruins because they contain lost treasures, ancient knowledge, powerful artifacts, hidden dangers. Dark Sun embraces this concept completely. Athos is built upon the remains of earlier ages. Remember, the world is already ruined. It's not something about to be ruined. The ruins scatter across the world are reminders of civilizations that existed before the environmental collapse. Like many sword and sorcery settings, the past often appears greater than the present. It's like, that time of Atlantis, but now it's all gone, right? Magic is as a threat. In traditional fantasy, magic is often viewed as a useful tool. In sword and sorcery fiction, magic is frequently dangerous and corrupting. Dark Sun follows this approach. The world's destruction is directly connected to abuse of arcane magic. Powerful spellcasters are feared rather than admired. Magic is associated with destruction, tyranny, and environmental devastation. The view of magic has far more in common with classic sword and sorcery than with settings such as the Forgotten Realms. Heroes are not guaranteed. Many epic fantasy stories assume heroes will save the world. Sword and sorcery tends to focus on individuals trying to survive difficult circumstances. Dark Sun adopts much of this mindset. Characters may become heroes, they may become rebels, they may become rulers, or they may simply try to survive another day. The setting does not assume noble intentions or guaranteed success. Players must earn their victories. Capability matters. A common feature of sword and sorcery fiction is that heroes survive because they are capable, not simply because they are powerful. They are resourceful. They adapt. They endure. They make difficult decisions under pressure. Dark Sun reinforces this idea constantly. The environment is unforgiving. Resources are scarce. Enemies are dangerous. Success often comes from determination, adaptability, and clever thinking rather than noble birth or social status. Why Sword and Sorcery fits Dark Sun so well. Dark Sun takes many classic sword and sorcery ideas, tyrants, slavery, ancient ruins, dangerous magic, harsh wilderness, personal survival, then combines them with post-apocalyptic fiction, dying earth, science fantasy elements, psionics. The result is a setting that feels familiar to fans of Conan-style fantasy while remaining completely unique within Dungeons and Dragons. Dark Sun is not simply Conan with sand dunes. It is a blend of sword and sorcery, post-apocalyptic fiction, dying world fantasy, and science fantasy ideas. Yet the influence of classic sword and sorcery can be seen throughout Athos and its tyrants, its ruins, its dangerous magic, its struggle for survival, and its belief that determined individuals can still change the course of history in a harsh, unforgiving world. Okay. Especially Black Rose here. So tomorrow night, Black Rose. I took my backup channel and I revamped it into a movie review channel because I found out my schedule going forward. I don't mind doing a lot of streams on here. I've decided to cut back on my video content creation, which just doesn't mean video content creation stops. It just is going to be more photo, like every so many days I do a video, right? Instead of multiple videos a day now. Every Friday, I'm doing a movie review on what was my backup channel, which is now a movie review channel. That's the change over, right? And I'm doing from 1970 to 1999, and then an occasional new movie. So I'm probably I'll tell you about the new movie I will probably do for sure. I was up and down on it, but I've been thinking about it as I've been doing this, so I'm probably going to do it for sure. So I want to do bizarre movies, sci-fi, and fantasy. That's the movies I'm focused on. So I'm not doing like MASH or Patton or stuff like that because I want to do movies that are nerd relatable stuff, right, to what I already do, like nerd stuff. So sci-fi and fantasy, nerd stuff, like imagine stuff like Dune. But bizarre, I like so for the first stream, it's already posted on the community part. The first stream tomorrow night is going to focus on a Clockwork Orange bizarre movie. All right. That's just going to be interesting just to talk about the movie. Next week, I'm going to do an interesting I'm going to do an interesting review on a movie, but I'm going to tie it to a new movie, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's because there is a newer movie that came out, and there's a whole conspiracy theory around. Two people, YouTubers, have done videos on this, and I have my own thoughts, and I want to do a little coverage on it, which is Willy Wonka and this other new movie, which is considered, without telling the audience, to be a sort of a second part, like a very bizarre, mature, weird, fucked up second part. There's a whole conspiracy around this other movie that related to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. So I want to cover that in the next one. But the one after that, I got to watch the movie. I'm going to watch it very soon. I have a copy of it now. Is the new Backrooms movie. So in the third one, it's going to be every Friday too. It's always every Friday. I'm going to do the new Backrooms movie, the new one. Oh, I'm covering them all. all the ones you mentioned there are getting covered. 100%. It's just if I go back to 1970 and start going forward, one of the first movie I hit that is one I want to cover is The Clockwork Orange. So I'm sort of doing it in an order, right? It's like 1971. So I am doing it purposely in an order. So I'll do the old ones in an order, but every so often I want to do something new. Now, if my schedule is good like this, where it's daytime stuff all the time going forward, every second Monday, I'm going to do sort of like an on the same channel, off script stream, where I'm going to talk about a TV show. So like sort of like an off script TV show. But so that channel is going to be turned into an entertainment focused channel. Mainly movies, guaranteed, like full, proper, reviews. Monkey gave me a suggestion that on Rumble, if I make a channel there that could be connected to that channel, we could watch movies together on Rumble. You could play movies on Rumble. I don't want to just raw watch a movie and not talk, so I'd rather come up with a concept if I were to do that, which is watch so much of the movie, pause, talk, watch so much of the movie, and do that a few times right up until the end of the movie, right? That you can watch movies on Rumble. But we'll see. And most of the guys that come watch stuff with me, that'd be unique. I don't know. I'd have to do it really early in the day. I think I'd have to do it much earlier in the day just to have most of the guys, even like you from Norway, be able to, because you got kids in the family, be able to actually have the time to watch a movie. So that would be a unique event where I had the time. But I mean, so I don't know if I'll even bother to do that. Plus, I'm not a fan of Rumble. So there's really the first two parts covered so far for Fluff for Dark Sun, which is really important stuff. I'm looking to have a few puffs of this, and then we're going to drive into the rest of the meat is going to be how to run Dark Sun. So if you want to run Dark Sun, that's going to be a really good part of this. And then I'm going to finally finish it up by covering second edition Psionics. All right. No, I've been really happy with just promoting the new stream with the movie thing. I did a lot of work on a thing right up. I'm going to watch the movie again tonight, the Clockwork Orange movie, so I can make some more notes. Right? But I wanted to start watching movies again, and I figured why not line it up with some YouTube work? Like I do, like in real life, I like talking about movies. So it's something I actually like to do. And well, since I spend so much time here and I'm going to be working a lot and it's just less social time, hey, I can talk about movies here. And the algorithm does not like me mixing up content. So doing movies on this channel hurts this channel. Like it makes the other videos are less seen, right? I want to turn it into talking about the movie a lot. And what I'm hoping is people will have more to say. Like it is movies. So I'm hoping that can be, because it can be challenging for people who want to be educated and just, I don't mind the stage work here. There's less talk and that. So I don't do this for as much interaction as, other YouTubers are expecting. As long as people are watching, I'm happy. I do the stage work. But I have to admit, I like to do the movies more to chat a bit more. So that's just like more wanting to chat. And I think people have spent more time, like they'll be more confident with talking about the movies. So I'm hoping that gets more people just yapping with more opinions, more to say. Here, it's just a lot of what I talk about people don't know. They're learning. I don't mind that part. I don't mind being on the stage and teaching and just educating. It's hard to have much to say when you're just trying to listen in to see what it is. Like you're trying to learn something from me. I get it, right? So that's how it works here. I don't mind that part. I don't mind that deal. Even if you don't respond, just keep talking till I'm done this. And be done in a minute here. So I think it's time to burn through the next two parts and get this going well. I think people will be happy with this part of the stream. Okay. How to run with the setting Dark Sun. Athos is the main villain. Many D&D campaigns focus on a villain. Dark Sun often focuses on a world that is trying to kill the characters. The heat, the deserts, the lack of water, the dangerous wildlife, the ruined wastelands. There should constantly influence decisions. This should constantly influence decisions. Sorry about that. I apologize. Players should think about supplies, travel routes, and survival, not just combat encounters. The environment should feel dangerous even when no enemy is present. That's why I say the world is like against you. It's like always fucking with you in a certain way. Make resources matter. Dark Sun works best when resources have value. Water should matter. Food should matter. Shelter should matter. A metal weapon should feel valuable. If players can easily replace equipment and ignore survival concerns, Athos starts feeling like a normal fantasy setting. You do not need to track every drop of water, but players should never completely forget that scarcity exists. This, remember, old school, even with D&D, is still about, especially with the setting, it's still about you having the feel of experience in the setting. So if you're always concerned, like you know you can run out of your water, you feel that in the game. That's part of feeling the setting for what it is. You're in a hot place. This is dangerous. And if I start lifting those things off you, your concerns also soften your experience and feel of what the place is, right? The powerful control everything. Authoritarian. Most city-states are ruled by sorcerer kings. The average person has very little power. When running Dark Sun, remember that authority is really benevolent. I mean, really good. Templars enforce the will of the ruler. Merchants pursue profit. Nobles protect their status. Slavers seek more slaves. There's a reason for this. It's pressure. It's hard to be good under these conditions. But that does not mean everyone is evil. It means power is usually being used for someone's benefit. Players should often feel like outsiders operating within a larger system, and within larger systems they cannot easily control. So it's sort of like thinking like this. Even if you're decent, you got to play a little dirty. And if you don't play dirty, you die. So it's like a setting that just doesn't care about your kindness. If you're carelessly kind, you die. So then you can't help nobody. So even to be doing anything of decency requires you to play a game. Make the city states feel different. The city states should not feel interchangeable. Each has its own ruler. Make sure it really is different in feel. Its own politics, its own culture, its own problems. When you read about it, you'll actually know the differences, and you want to make sure you're applying them to the field, to what people say, the different rules in the place. You want to make sure that's actually established, and purposely have it where characters are going to run into this stuff. Don't ignore having them hear about it, so they actually know about it. When the characters enter a new city state, they should immediately notice that life works differently there. Different laws, different customs, different power structures, different opportunities. If every city state feels the same, Athos begins to feel smaller than it really is. Violence has consequences. Many fantasy campaigns assume adventurers can solve problems by drawing swords. Dark Sun often works better when violence creates additional problems. Killing a guard may attract more guards. Defeating a merchant may anger an entire trade house. Escaping slavery may create powerful enemies. Combat should remain important, but players should understand that every fight can create lasting consequences. So when they fight, when they have the heat with someone, man, it might not be over there, and you want to put some pressure. Why would somebody be mad about that? And then make sure you're playing that against them. It creates more problems for them. They don't just get to walk away. Present difficult choices. Dark Sun thrives on hard decisions. Do the characters share their water? Do they help escape slaves? Do they challenge corrupt officials? Do they risk dangerous journeys for valuable resources? The idea is if you carelessly help the slave, it could get you killed so easily. If you give away your water, oh man, you're not going to make it. And who's more important, you or them? You know, do they challenge corrupt officials? Even if somebody is corrupt, does it benefit you, or is it better to play the game even if you think you're a decent character? Remember what I told you about how the groups have to play? In a way, your characters have to consider these things, and you got to make sure that's a big thing in this game. The setting becomes more interesting when there is no perfect answer. Many Athos, many of Athos' best stories come from choosing between two bad options. Arcane magic should feel dangerous, as I've already said. In most D&D settings, a wizard is unusual but accepted. In Dark Sun, arcane magic carries a terrible reputation. Many people blame arcane magic for destruction of Athos. Characters who openly use magic may attract suspicion, fear, or even hostility. Even when a spellcaster is not a defiler, many people will not know the difference. This helps reinforce one of the setting's defining themes and reminds players that magic is not viewed as a harmless tool. So don't just go around like, I'm a wizard. You are? Like, it can attract people to want to be against you, to not want to help you. So it's part of the field experience. That's really important. Let the world feel ancient, as I've already said before. Athos is full of ruins and forgotten history. When players discover an ancient structure, it should feel unique. The people living today often know very little about the civilization that came before them. Ancient discoveries should feel mysterious rather than routine. The past should always seem larger than the present. So when I told you about these ideas earlier, it's when you're running into these places, make sure like you're telling them you know, you could have like an NPC around or some type of sign that shows something really unique was here before they got here. It's not just like a fallen down church, man. It's like you're at a church, but you start looking out at the land like you start seeing where it could have been like a whole structure of a city around. Like just a hint of it. There's ley lines, there's lines for walls. You start walking through like, is this wait, there's weird rocks lined up here. Is this a street? Right? Like there's something unique here that is gone and forgotten. Make psionics feel normal. One mistake some DMs make is treating psionics like rare magical powers. On Athos, they are part of everyday life. Merchants may use them. Guards may use them. Travelers may use them. Psionics should feel common and expected rather than unusual or mysterious. So you want it to become a bit of a play toy. Usually you don't do that with some things, but this is what the setting is saying. Most people have already learned how to use it like a play toy. Like how would you move an object? You move it over there. You know what I mean? Like so in a weird way, you want to play to that. You want to turn psionics into a bit of a toy where casual people are using it to move stuff, draw stuff to them. And that the character should be seeing that. It should be so commonplace that it's not bizarre to the other people around watching it happen either. Right? It is that commonplace, and you want it to feel that way on purpose. And this is where I'm going to say embrace the weird. Athos should feel different from traditional fantasy. That's part of this whole you want the politics or the rules or the laws to be being enforced maybe on the people around you. You want to see when you're walking around the city the psionics being used. Representation of all the stuff I've been telling you about is really important to create the experience and feel for the players. And if you can have them encountering it directly, fine, but make sure they're seeing it. Don't just skip over it, right? So embrace the weird. Athos should feel different from traditional fantasy. Use strange creatures. Use unusual mounts, right? Use bizarre environments. Use giant insects. Use dry keens. Use half giants. Use bone and obsidian equipment. Use creatures and customs that players would not expect in a typical fantasy world. The player should rarely forget that they are somewhere unique, meaning what's common to them in Greyhawk, this weirdness is not something you just want them somewhat running into. It almost becomes like psionics. You want to overkill. You want, this is the norm. This is the normal world that they're in. So you're trying to redefine normalcy, but differently. Like it's like you're playing D&D, but it's like Thrykin are everywhere. You're running into half giants. Like it's commonplace here. It's still going to be new to you on your first run through, or the players on their first run through a Dark Sun. As a game master, you want to turn things, because usually you're told as a game master to hold back, make it rare, make it special, make it unique. Here it's because things are so rare and they're not meant to be rare that you sort of got to overkill to normalize them. So the play, turning them into the candy is like normalizing them. Preserve the feeling of survival. As characters gain levels, it becomes tempting to let the setting become easier. Try not to lose the survival atmosphere. Experienced characters should become more capable. Athos should remain dangerous, though. The threats simply change. Early characters may fear starvation. Later characters may fear armies, dragons, sorcerer kings, and dangers hidden in the deep desert. The feeling of that survival is never guaranteed, should remain throughout the campaign. Meaning, again, if they come up with easier ways to get, like, first they're going to be like, man, I got enough food. Okay, they get a few levels, they get a little bit more established, and they got stuff. But now, because they're a little bit more leveled up and then go other places, when they go there, now there's more dangers. The monsters, the threats, and everything start piling up. All right, at one point they're trying to avoid that and get the water. Now it's like you got to go around this place, and that means they're going to be around this, and that's, you want to have them running into it. So a constant level of stress on the characters. The characters can change the world. Many sword and sorcery settings focus on individual actions. Dark Sun works well when the characters matter. A group of adventurers might free slaves, overthrow a ruler, protect a settlement, destroy a threat, discover lost knowledge. The world is harsh, but the character should still have opportunities to leave a mark on it. Athos is brutal, but it should never feel hopeless. Meaning, because it can be so hard for players just getting by for the threats, this becomes on you, DM. Opportunities have to be not railroaded in, but like, you need to put them in. You can't just hope they want to go look for slaves to save. You got to make sure you're given opportunities. You could save these slaves. You can overthrow a ruler. Like opportunities. Like, here's an NPC saying, I actually know of a way you could probably take him down. Not that your players have to come up with these ideas. You need to throw it at them. Chances, opportunities, so they could do something special in the world, because it's going to be such a struggle that players are going to be so busy trying to survive in most cases. At the idea that they come up with something, hey, I want to overthrow, I mean, it could be general, but then what to do, right? So opportunities that can make it real become something. Like a guy who knows where the slaves are, somebody who knows how to take down the ruler, where they can get credible information that they can decide to take and go, let's do this insane thing. Let's go save these people. Let's go take down this guy. Let's go discover this lost knowledge, where we found this map that says, on the back of it is written by somebody where they found it. Like, it's saying, like, if you find this, this could raise up this old city. What the fuck? Or it would tell you maybe the secret you need to know from the old city to get into somewhere in the new city. Right? Maybe take down the ruler. Maybe a combination of these amazing things you can do. The biggest mistake a DM can make is running Dark Sun like ordinary Dungeons and Dragons. Make the environment matter. Make resources matter. Make power feel oppressive. Make survival important. Make magic feel feared, because the way people react to it. Make the world feel strange, that weirdness. If players constantly feel that Athos is dangerous, ancient, unforgiving, and unlike any other fantasy setting, then Dark Sun is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And it works. That weirdness is what will finally sell the strange Dark Sun to people. Because you'll be thinking, like, a lot of people there say, like, Dark Sun is, a lot of people don't run it, or people say they run it or they don't. I'm like, there is running it, but when you run it, this is back to performance. It's back to performance. It's pacing, it's putting pressure, timing when you put pressure, lower levels. Yes, water should be hard to get. Food should be hard to get. You got to track everything. Not impossible, not every drop of water, but definitely challenging. As you level up, do this. What about psionics being commonly used? What about how the laws work differently here, even if they're not used on the characters? The characters see other non-player characters getting arrested for something that you wouldn't get arrested for over here. Like the differences in places. And through that, because there's all these laws, like authoritarianism, right, where people are being held down and running into slave markets where they see slaves and then opportunities. You got to do this stuff for it to become what it's meant to be. And if you, or having like a wizard walk around who says to somebody, I'm a wizard, and people are like, oh, cool. That's wrong. Even if the guy is like even if he's like, look, I think you're safe, but man, you gotta keep that down. You can't say that again. Why? Because they'll report you as a threat. Right? And you got to make the world feel, because it's less of a game. There's a lot less details than you think to Dark Suns. Dark Suns is not a game, it's a setting. D&D is already the game. It's not like you're adding new mechanics in this way. You're using the mechanics that exist for another game. So how do you do Dark Sun? Dark Sun is about an experience and feel. And it's meant to be different. It's purposely different than the other stuff. So all this stuff I'm telling you is how you separate it from the D&D Greyhawk game, the Forgotten Realms, to everything else. And now, once you understand how to do stuff like this, there's many ways to do it. Many unique NPCs you can put in. There's a multitude of different ways you can play with it. Getting it right on that first campaign will open the door to you. You get it right. On the second campaign, you can do the same stuff, but now you can do it in different ways. Now you're more comfortable to introduce it. Now it's more of you can bring different NPCs. You can have different kinds of slaves. You can have good groups that are somewhat playing that game, right? Different ways of freeing people or saving people. So things become a variety. And it doesn't mean the characters always have to be going after the same heroic thing. They want to stop this leader. What if a corrupted leader, as corrupted as he is not as corrupted as another one? What if you end up helping one of the corrupted leaders? But now that can become a new twist to the story that you can play off of the next. And I did this myself. It went from taking a ruler down to them working for a ruler. And even at one point, it was working with a Thrykin that turned sort of a mercenary group that turned on other Thrykin that were slavers. And then finding out there was a whole slave market between all the different cities, and that a certain Thrykin group was running it, and to take that down would be a damage on the entire system. So there's many different ways. I did that in 3 campaigns right there. So it could be, and you could do it in many different ways, but it's that first run you should be doing what I'm saying here. Okay. If you ever go to run Dark Sun, that might have sounded plain Jane, but if you're going to run Dark Sun, come back and listen to that again. You'll appreciate everything I just said there. You'll thank me for it. Actually, you'll probably need it. And if you ever go to run Dark Sun, you'll desperately come back and listen to what I just said. And you'll realize just how valuable the how to run it part was for that. When I do how to run it parts, it's not always about entertaining. I admit that part of my streams for games, or even the setting here, is it really is for the person going to run the game or run the setting. So I put down the entertainment factor and just go, here's the most valuable information. And I've had a few guys now come back to me where they got to run the game and they're like, man, your thing saved me. Like I listened to your thing and then I had 10 ideas right away. But they when they're just listening to it to hear about the game, they're just hearing about the game, right? Then when they go to run it, then it's like, oh, wow. Okay. Like I never seen that stuff written in the material. I know, dude. I know. I'm glad to help. Okay. AD&D 2nd edition, psionics. What are psionics? Psionics are mental powers. Unlike arcane magic or divine magic, psionics do not come from spells, gods, magical formulas, or magical energy. I knew most of the setting stuff was going to be fluff because there's no game mechanics. So I wanted to be able to talk about psionics separately because psionics is game mechanics. So again, Unlike arcane magic or divine magic, psionics do not come from spells, gods, magical formulas, or magical energy in this game. They come from the power of the mind itself. A character uses concentration, discipline, and mental training to produce supernatural effects. In many fantasy settings, psionics are rare. Mine, I actually do have it connected as sort of a god thing, but that there's many ways to see psionics or psychic powers or something in that vein. In Dark Sun, they are everywhere. That makes it important for a DM to understand what they actually are and how they function. Why D&D TSR bring back psionics? Why did TSR bring back psionics? Psionics had existed in AD&D before 2nd edition. The original AD&D version was often criticized for being complicated, poorly integrated, and difficult to balance. TSR revisited the concept of the Complete Psionics Handbook in 1991. The goal was to create a more organized system that could function as a core part of a campaign rather than an odd optional add-on. Dark Sun would soon become the setting most closely associated with these rules. The psionic class. In AD&D 2nd edition, psionics are not simply a collection of optional powers. The game includes a psionicist, a full character class dedicated to entirely to mental disciplines. Like a wizard specialist in arcane magic and priest specialist in divine magic, the psionicist specializes in a mental power. While other characters might possess minor psionic abilities, the psionicist is the master of the system. Psionics are not spellcasting. One of the biggest mistakes DMs make is treating psionics like magic with different names. They are designed differently. A wizard memorizes spells. A priest receives divine powers. A psionicist uses mental disciplines. The mechanics are different and the feel at the table should be different. Psionic powers are often subtle. Many do not involve glowing lights, magical gestures, or spoken words. The effects may be entirely mental. This creates a very different atmosphere than traditional spellcasting. Okay, PSPs or PSP, PSP, which are psionic strength points. The fuel of psionics. Psionic characters use psionic strength points. Think of PSPs as a mental energy pool. Using power spends PSPs. Powerful abilities usually cost more PSPs. As long as a character still has PSPs available, they can continue using powers. This is very different from a spell slot approach used by wizards and priests. A psionicist manages a resource pool rather than memorize spells. Powers are divided into disciplines. So, just to go back to the pool thing, it's like saying it's like you have so much energy. That's it. Like, you know what I mean? You're using energy to cast, and you got to be careful. If you're running out, that's going to be it. Right? So you don't get to memorize. It's not from how many times you can cast based on divine powers. It is an energy pool, and you have a select few things you can do, and you do that until your energy's gone. Or that's the game you're playing. Powers are divided into disciplines. Psionic abilities are grouped into major categories called disciplines. The 6 major disciplines are clear sentience, knowledge and perception. Examples include seeing distant places, detecting danger, gaining information. Psychokinesis, manipulating. So, clear sentience is knowledge and perception. Examples include seeing distant places, detecting danger, gaining information. Psychokinesis, manipulating physical objects and energy. Examples include moving objects, creating force effects, altering physical matter. That's why I said when you're doing the stuff with the NPCs in the setting for Dark Sun, people are going to be doing stuff like this, moving stuff, right? Especially with psychokinesis. Psychometabolism, changing their user's body. Examples include healing, adapting to environments, physical enhancement. Psychoportation, movement and transportation. Examples include teleportation, extraordinary movement, unusual travel abilities. Telepathy, mind-to-mind interaction, reading thoughts, mental communication, mental attacks. Meta psionics. Advanced manipulation of psionic powers themselves, usually available only to experienced psionicists. Science and devotions. Psionic powers come in two basic categories. Sciences, major powers, more advanced, more costly, more difficult to master. So that's the sciences. These represent most of the power abilities available to a psionicist. Devotions, minor powers, less costly, used more frequently. These form the core of the everyday psionic activity. A psionicist usually knows far more devotions than scientists. Devotions are what you're going to see a lot of the people using, right? How powers are activated. Most psionic powers require a power check. In most cases, the player rolls a d20 and attempts to score an equal to or below an adjusted ability score. Success activates the power. So you want to get the same number or below of a certain ability score. Success activates the power. Failure means the power does not function. This creates a different feel from spellcasting. A psionicist may know a power perfectly, but success is never automatically guaranteed. Welcome back. I'm glad you're listening. This part's a little technical, right? Just getting to the technical stuff. It's like you have this, basically, it's not like casting. Like, you don't memorize. You don't get it so many times a day from praying for your spells. You get so much energy, and you have all these options. In order to your energy, you can keep spending energy, to use all these options until you have no energy. On top of that, when you go to use them, you got to do a power check, which is basically each one of the things you're doing is going to be aligned to ability score. You want to roll a d20, roll that number below to actually succeed in using the thing itself, right? There is two different types of these of psionics, which is sciences and devotions. Devotions is what you're going to see a lot of Dark Sun people using. The psionicist from the Psionics Handbook, that's that special class. They can use the sciences, like the more advanced versions of psionic powers, right? That's what makes them separate from, say, just normal people. So now we get to wild talents. One of the most important concepts for Dark Sun DMs is the wild talent. Though a wild talent is a minor psionic ability possessed by an otherwise ordinary individual. In Athos, many people possess a small psionic gift despite not being psionicist. A merchant might possess a minor telepathic ability. A guard might have a simple psychokinetic talent. A traveler might have an unusual sensory gift. Wild talents help make psionics feel like a natural part of everyday life. So even though there's all of these advanced things for the psionicist, there is sort of the wild talents, which are sort of like minor versions of the same things, weaker. But that wild talent is something you're going to see amongst a lot of people, pretty much almost everybody in Dark Sun. Psionic combat. One of the most unique parts of the system is psionic combat. When two psionically capable minds clash, they can engage in a specialized form of mental battle. This is not something that occurs in every encounter. It is separate. It is a separate subsystem used primarily when psionic opponents confront one another. The system uses attack modes such as mind thrust, ego whip, psychic crush, ID insinuation. So ID insinuation, psionic blast, defense modes such as mind blank, thought shield, mental barrier, intellect fortress, tower of iron will. The result is essentially a battle of minds occurring alongside physical events. It's just different abilities. You got these where you can blast off against each other, but unlike, say, if you're using this against other normal people, certain abilities, if you're going against an actual other psionic person, they actually have defense abilities against your offensive attacks, right? And you can use them against each other. It's a subsystem. I don't want to go into the details. That you'd have to go learn. And the chances that you're really going to be in combat with a psionicist in most cases is very rare. Even though most people can use it, most people cannot use the advanced forms. Like they would never be that. Though you probably want to check it out, though it can be a bit of a pain in the ass, and I personally tried to avoid it myself. I've done it once. It does actually work, but just found not to be fun. I don't know. Not interesting. Why many groups ignored Sonic Combat. Sonic Combat is one of the most controversial parts of the system. Many groups found it slow, complicated, difficult to remember, disconnected from normal combat procedures. Some groups enjoyed the unique flavor, others simplified the rules or ignored the subsystem entirely. If you're running Dark Sun, decide ahead of time how heavily you intend to use Sonic Combat so players know what to expect. I dropped it after the first one. I tried it. Actually, even after like halfway through that campaign, I just said, I'm not doing that again. And the players were like, that's completely fine. I'm like, yeah. Running psionics in Dark Sun, the biggest advice for a Dark Sun DM is simple. Do not treat psionics as rare, as I said. What psionics add to a campaign? Psionics allow adventurers and the challenges that are difficult to create with ordinary magic. So psionics allow adventurers and challenges that are difficult to create with ordinary magic. So what it's saying is like there are certain things that you could only be able to access with psionic abilities. All right, there are certain things you can do, certain ways you can get minds, certain ways you can read things and get to somewhere else. That if you didn't have these abilities, the options to do this would be cut off. So it creates adventures you could do or ways to get to adventures. And then challenges difficult to create with ordinary magic. So it's like, here's a challenge that you could deal with psionic powers, but really magic is not going to deal with that in the same way, right? So it does do that. That's what it does add to a campaign. There's unique things you can do with it, something to consider. Characters can battle mentally, read thoughts, manipulate emotions, enhance their bodies, explore unusual mental phenomena, solve problems in unconventional ways. They provide a second supernatural system alongside magic and help make Dark Sun feel fundamentally different from most fantasy settings. Psionics are, and this is true, you could use the same in Forgotten Realms and other things to create these things if you want, but they're especially tied to Dark Sun. So if you're going to run Dark Sun, I say psionics are just necessary. Psionics are not simply another type of spellcasting. They are a separate supernatural system built around mental discipline, resource management, and personal power. For many AD&D campaigns, they remained an optional subsystem. For Dark Sun, they became part of the world's identity. Understanding psionics is one of the keys to understanding why Athos feels so different from every other AD&D setting. That's it. I thought it was so necessary to teach you. I know it's sort of a little difficult there and get into the technical stuff, but I hope I made that as understandable as I could. It's hard to run Dark Sun and not do the psionics, or even it sort of becomes pointless running Dark Sun without doing psionics. It is so tied to what it's meant to weirdly be, and it wasn't originally. Dark Sun is not initially made even with psionics in mind. Actually, they brought out the psionics handbook and then said, let's build that into the whole thing, and they just did. Thank you, Speed. Hope you enjoyed that. But Dark Sun that's up and down everything. Like the fluff is how it was made. I really just told you how, like, that really does come from that War World project. So that's how, and then the artist makes the art and they design around that, and then they're looking to make it different. When you get over to the Conan Sword of Sorcery, that's a big inspiration for the gameplay, for the idea behind the campaigns or how the world is going to be set up outside of design. So that's necessary to know to understand the deeper part of Dark Sun. And then the how to run, that stuff is brilliant because my how to run part is really important. If you run Dark Sun and want to get what the designers are intending for you to get, and to actually get something out of it instead of turning it into generic nonsense or making a mess of it, my advice is fucking spot on. I did 3 campaigns with it and 3 good campaigns with it. The last part of psionics, I was going over the technical bit there though on some freehand after I got through stuff. I explained it. It's you have this psionic points, And that becomes like a pool of points you can just spend. You have a list of powers you can play with, and you can spend the points on them to use them. Like in that way, it's not like you memorize or have to pray for how many you can cast. Once you've done that, every time you go to use a psionic power, like one of these unique ones, you got to roll a d20, and though you set to ability scores, each one of these powers, you roll the ability score or under, and if you do, you achieve using the power the way you want to, right? Then there is that wild talent thing where most people in Dark Sun have a very light version of psionics, but if you do play a psionicist, you'll have access to all these other powerful psionic abilities. If not, the reason I told you about the wild talents, and they will exist, you can read about them, they're minor versions, you could let the characters be able to use this stuff. So even if you don't have a psionicist, potentially the characters in your game can be people that use wild talents. You can let your characters use wild talents. You can learn a bit about psionics, so you can add that to the thing. But you should know about the pool. So it's not that hard. The pool of the points, you can spend on the powers. You roll d20 or lower. The thing I would avoid for anybody new to psionics is psionic combat. Just don't let it. Don't make it a thing. If you just basically don't have other psionicists in the game. If a player wants to play that character, let them, but don't make an NPC that's that. Just don't. It doesn't play. It's not like Cohen and Amber. You have the two guys. Don't know. It's way messier. You will not like it. I'm pretty sure you won't like it. Most people never liked it. The idea is I heard people liked it, but I've just never met a group that did. And it was a new subsystem just added out of nowhere. So it was like something it was like, to me, they took Sonics and cleaned it up from AD&D 1E. And then just as they cleaned it up, they're like, here, let's make it messier. Like, fuck off, guys. Why make it messier? It's good. It's good the way it is. It's good. So that's Dark Sun. Anybody else would explain to you it'd be vague. Little work there, but that was all details. Understanding how it was built is unique because a lot of people assume it was built off of this or it was built in this way. It was actually started off the concept being a war game thing. And then at one point, they just go away from the war game. It was called War World. And then usually, like it says, when they make stuff, they usually make stuff and then get the artist to sort of try to draw stuff that relates to what they made. This time with Dark Sun, they had this brilliant artist, Brahm, and when he would make art, his ideas for this thing, they said, man, that's because it was so vague that Brahm had to go make stuff and sort of guess. So when he come back with ideas, they were like, we don't have it built, but we got to build that because his stuff looked fucking awesome. And then when you get to the how to run part, it's not like I'm giving you mechanics at that point. It's a setting. It's not like there's a bunch of mechanics to give, right? It's when I'm telling you, you have to do these things. You might think that's minor, but most guys I see try to run Dark Sun don't do it. So I did that stuff, and it actually works. It sounds subtle, but it actually deeply works. Having the people do this stuff, having the laws be presented in front of you, even if it's arresting other people. And then you can once you understand the basics of a first campaign, now you can play with it. Right? Now you could potentially go from they want to take down a ruler to help one ruler against another corrupt ruler. Right? But you've got to really understand this basic stuff and see how it works. It's one thing to never have ran it, but see how it works with players. Right? How do they feel about it? Because you'll like how they feel. You'll get a kick out of it. You'll actually find it interesting. And then you'll realize that you can't run a 200-session campaign, and it's not really about them exactly. I mean, they could become rulers if they want. You get really advanced players. For the most part, just achieving something great, like taking something great down, is important, especially on that first run. And then once you get that, trust me, all the other ideas will follow. Then you can play with it a bit more. So if you do one campaign, you probably want to do two. And if you actually complete a campaign with it, you'll definitely want to do two. That's when you'll find out, oh, Dark Sun's pretty good. It's like, look, you're not going to play it as much as you might play Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms. But I did 3 campaigns in it, and I was quite happy. And each campaign went over 50 sessions. each, right? And I was very happy with the outcome. Only in the third campaign, trying to free the slaves, they sort of did, but most of them died at the end freeing the slaves. Like, it was, at least they got there. I couldn't believe they got there, but they got there. Then that last fight, one character walks out of like 7 players. So one guy lived, the other 6 did. But everyone was saved. And they became heroic. They became told in stories. They got remembered for what they did by the Thrive King, who started building statues of all the different fucking guys that died. But in a ruined area where they found this old abandoned, well, not an abandoned city, but it was a city that was so covered in sand that what it tells you is what they realized was, man, this world is a lot older than they realized it was. And it wasn't that there was just a city there that fell down and crumbled. There was so much sand that the walls for most parts of the city were still standing, but buried. So what they figured out was how to get the sand to start going down. Had to like sort of cycle it down, like it was as if it were an ocean going like down a drain. And the Thrive King that they helped took over this new city place. So they took the slaves there, and then they start building statues for them. It was a great ending to the whole thing, but that's how the last campaign went. So Dark Sun can be actually very excellent and a lot of fun, but most people didn't run with it. Almost everybody I seen run with it did it in a way designers would be opposed to. And as you guys know from my content, I really tried to go after a lot of times or understand what the designers want with certain things. And, when something was so unique with Dark Sun, I knew just to take it and try to make it my own was sort of a useless thing, at least on that first run. I had to see what they wanted. Just like D&D. When I first started D&D, that was the first thing as trying to run D&D, was not so much me trying to just do my own ideas, which came later, but it's that education of doing what the designers want early on and then making my changes later. So when people say you should, you shouldn't just change everything right away, I'm like, well, no, I don't do that with any game or any setting. I actually purposely go and understand what the designers want. And actually, I usually understand what the designers want better than most people that say they like things like raw. Like they're like, I like raw D&D. Well, I'm like, I actually understand raw D&D. You don't. Even though I do different things later, the reason I can do different things with confidence is it's going through that early process of really learning what the designers want so I can understand the details to then make changes confidently. Right? It's understand what they're intending. And then so I can understand what I'm changing, what I'm not intending. Right? It's like, that's what they want. Is that what I want? So I don't always, when I talk about what designers want, it doesn't mean I say I promote like, oh, you got to do what they want, but it's hard to do what you want in a good way if you don't understand at least the structure they create. So even with D&D, the game itself, it's like understand what the designers, the structure they created. So when you adjust it, you have a better understanding of what you're adjusting. And when you understand it better, it makes it easier to adjust. You can almost become a part of the game designer team in that way, because it's like game designers are constantly making different additions. That means they're making changes. Well, how do I get on par with those guys instead of just being somebody randomly at home making a shitty change that might not work? The more I understand the basics, the more I can tweak in a direction that isn't just going to so easily blow up. Right? And those tweaks also with the understanding the way they want, like you should be sort of trying to go after a Dark Sun thing. Once you understand the basics, then you understand how you can tweak it towards other things, other ideas, other concepts. And you'll find out that structure usually turns out to be something okay. Dark Sun, it works. And remember, old school is more about not getting a fight right or having a good time, like rolling the dice and being on the board grid. It's more about the feel of a place, the experience you have in that way. It's more important to old school than new school. And it's no different here with Dark Sun. So there. I hope everyone's happy with that one. That's Dark Sun. That is Dark Sun. Now, a little reminder about what's coming up tomorrow night. It's going to be on a different channel. You might want to go sub there if you want. I'm going to be doing a movie review on a very special movie, A Clockwork Orange, right? And that's going to be every Friday. Next week is going to be Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The week after that is, I'm going to officially announce it now, it's going to be the new Backrooms movie, the 2026 Backrooms movie. It's going to be great. I want to talk about that stuff. I want to talk about the conspiracy stuff with Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory next week. I think that's going to be interesting, right? It's going to be good stuff. Good stuff. Fun stuff. And I think most of you have watched some of the stuff. I don't know if any of you watch a Clockwork Orange, but you should. If you haven't, you definitely should. If not, some movies, I would imagine I might just be talking like I do with many of the games here that you guys don't understand or the settings. And I get that for some of the stuff, it's hard to really talk much when you don't know much about these things, right? I hope Dark Sun was interesting. I hope it was. Because I found it to be very interesting when I ran it. Yeah. Look, I would love to get more people on to talk. It'd be nice. I understand it's very effective for YouTube because you can get on here and be mediocre fucking shit YouTuber and be more entertaining, I guess, for the audience than I can if you have other people just laughing and making mediocre jokes with you. You guys could all have no talent together, but I guess it will be slightly more interesting than me. That's great, right? But usually it's just me here performing. So, and I perform on topics that are very picky to the world. I hope the entertainment stuff is a little bit more interesting. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. But when it comes to like something like Dark Sun, man, so many details to it, and just getting the fluff right, making sure that's all good, right? I hope that's good. I hope it's good. I understand the audience. Nerds will pick this up later. If the advice is going to be good, the psionic stuff is going to be good if you want to understand it. And I think you actually should use it. I actually think you should use it for Forgotten Realms. I would never use the combat subsystem. And honestly, I would even consider not using a psionicist, right, to a degree, but understanding psionics so you can use them with the monsters, especially the Underdark ones, that's good. That's actually pretty good. It makes them be able to do some unique things. It's fun that way. Though you could have a psionicist in the group. It is possible. They would be very unique for a world, not just Dark Sun. Wild talents can be interesting, and they don't have to just apply to Dark Sun either. Yeah, you could find a talent somewhere. Okay. I love you all. I will talk to you soon. I do have a plan for a video coming out Saturday. Remember, I'm covering Dangerous Journey Saturday, and then Star Wars RPG on Sunday.